Truth or Dare, a sweet romantic comedy collection, written by Laura Burton, narrated by Amber Battaglia. What I Don't Like About You, Debbie and Mark's Story. Chapter 1, Debbie. Note to self. Consuming excessive amounts of sugar is just as bad as drinking too much alcohol. This is why I don't go to parties. Everyone knows I'm much happier at my tiny apartment in upstate New York, curled up with a snuggly blanket, breaking the spine of a new book and tearing through pages like a literary monster. In fact, right now I'd rather be at my local DIY store looking at 32 different shades of white than sit in Michelle's living room with all of these people. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, though my name actually is Debbie. But parties make me uncomfortable, especially in a suburban home in New Jersey, with twitchy neighbors and uptight locals with the cops on speed dial. Besides, parties often involve too many people, deafening music blasting my eardrums, and nothing but junk food in sight. So, what do? I down sugar shots like I'm 12 years old because I do not drink, and the sugar rush has me bouncing off the walls. Debbie Brown, it's my 21st birthday, and you're my best friend. You have to come to my party, Michelle said, giving me her puppy dog eyes. Michelle and I have been friends since we were in diapers. In fact, as I look around the cramped living room at the sea of faces, I realize there isn't a soul in this house who isn't a close friend. Cameron and Jonah have been part of the group since our first year in college when Michelle made me join the Glee Club. Holly and Katya have been our roommates since our second year. And then there's Ryder. He looks as awkward and disgruntled as I feel. But now the sugar is rushing to my head and my brain is full of bees. Where are you going? Michelle asks, her big round eyes fixed on me as I rise to my feet. I'm going to use the bathroom. Is that okay with you? I ask, sticking my brows up and giving her some sass. Michelle rolls her eyes and nods. They won't miss me, I figure, as I stroll down the narrow hall and consider making a break for it. It's getting late, and before long, Cameron will be overtired and suggest a game of charades. Holly will go along with it because she worships the ground he walks on, and Katya will act cool and aloof but secretly plan to kick everyone's butts and win the game 10-1. Jonah will shamelessly flirt with Michelle all evening, and Ryder will make sarcastic comments from the corner while tapping away on his laptop. I could totally sneak out the back door and make it home before anyone notices. The idea is tempting. All I have to do is text Michelle, tell her I'm sick, and that I have to go to bed. Which is kind of true because I'm sick of these lame parties. I march to the back door and reach for it, just as a face pops up to the glass. The sight of it makes me shriek so loud, a stampede of footsteps rushes towards me. What is it? Holly cries as the kitchen becomes crowded. I clamp my teeth together as the door swings open, and the last person I want to bump into towers over me. Perfect. Just when I thought this night can't get any more awkward, he's here. Hey there, Debbie. Did my manly muscles scare you? Sorry about that. His casual smirk tells me he's anything but sorry. Typical Mark. The room relaxes as everyone realizes I'm not being attacked. You're just in time. Come in and grab a drink, Michelle says as she bounces on the balls of her feet and her eyes glint at me. Oh no. She's giving me that look. The one that tells me she's going to force me to do something I will absolutely regret in the morning. Like the time she convinced me that climbing into her neighbor's hot tub was a good idea. She had promised me they were on vacation, and I guess that was true. But what she didn't know was their elderly parents were house sitting. We gave them the shock of their lives at 3 a.m. when all of the liquor Michelle had took over and she started singing We Are the Champions with all of the strength in her lungs. Everyone files back into the living room and I follow, chewing my lip and swallowing the groan in my throat. Mark settles on the couch, resting his ankle over his left knee and reclining back like he's the most chilled out person in the room. Actually, he probably is. And yet, just the sight of him so confident and comfortable gets under my skin. Who's ready for a game? Michelle asks. Everyone settles in their seats except for Ryder, who remains at the dining table with his laptop. His laser focus on the screen prompts me to think he's under the impression that if he doesn't make eye contact, he is invisible. It works. No one so much as looks in his direction. My stomach knots with jealousy. I wish I could sit in the corner and get away with it. Everyone sit in a circle, Michelle barks. I look back to see her brandishing an empty bottle and a jar. Aren't we a bit old to be playing spin the bottle? I ask with a brow raised. Katya stifles a giggle and grins over at me. I take it back. Maybe some of us aren't too mature for spin the bottle. Holly cozies up to Cameron and playfully strokes his back. He just scrolls through his phone as if oblivious to the attention. We're not playing spin the bottle, Michelle says with a chuckle, as if I've just suggested we take a trip to the moon. That's right. Silly Debbie with her wild ideas. Come on, gorgeous. You can sit next to me. Mark pats the empty floor beside him and flashes me a smile. His heavy brows pinch together and he's smoldering. It's a look that would melt 1,000 hearts. I imagine he's spent his entire life practicing in front of the mirror. I give an exaggerated sigh and sit with my legs crossed. Katya's eyes shoot to Mark and return to my gaze as she gives me a knowing look. I keep eye contact and purse my lips. Yes, twin telepathy is totally a thing. I know that she's teasing me about Mark being my lover boy or something, and I know she can read my warning. Don't you dare say anything. There are 3 people in this room that know a secret. But if Katya opens her mouth and lets the cat out of the bag, then I'm going to need to move state and change my name. It's embarrassing enough I have to face him again. But if Michelle or Holly or the guys knew about what happened at the lake last summer, I'd straight up die. So, what's the game? I ask, breaking eye contact and looking at Michelle. She clears her throat and casts her eyes about us like we're a group of teenagers. Truth or dare? She announces with a glint in her eyes. Katya and I share a look. I guess Michelle thinks we are a group of teenagers. I can't even remember the last time I played Truth or Dare. There is a grumble among the rest of the people sitting on the floor. To my surprise, Ryder settles next to Michelle and finally appears to show some interest. I never knew him to be the type to play childish games. Yet, neither am I, and look where we are. We spin the bottle to find out who goes first. These dares are designed to change your life. Why am I getting horror vibes from this? Nothing good ever came from a truth or dare game, you know. Mark says, for the first time, I agree with his statement. What if I have to tell everyone what happened between us last summer? I make a mental note to pick a dare. Nothing can be worse than sharing that. Hey, I just got my bachelor's in psychology. Trust me. Michelle says with her hands on her hips. It takes all of my resolve not to roll my eyes. I've put a lot of thought into these challenges, and I promise you're going to love them. I glance at the sea of unimpressed looks in the room, and my duty to support my bestie rises within me. Come on, guys, it's Michelle's birthday. Let's just give it a go, shall we? I offer, trying my best to impersonate a cheerleader and failing miserably. I worry my pitiful attempts to pump my arms and put on a smile makes me come across as sarcastic. Despite my worries, everyone agrees. Great, let's see who goes first. Michelle places the bottle on the carpet and sets it into a spin. My stomach knots each time it faces me, and I chew my lip while keeping my eyes on the bottle. Please don't land on me. Please don't land on me. The bottle slows right near my knee, and my heart rate quickens. Then it stops. Mark, that's you. Michelle says brightly. Cameron nudges Mark, who smirks. So, Mark, truth or dare? Michelle asks. Easy one. Dare, he says with confidence. I exhale, relieved he didn't pick truth. At least my secret is safe for now. I wonder what dare could be so life-changing for Mark. Maybe he'll have to play chess against Ryder and lose. Then he'll have to admit he's not all that. The guy's ego is so inflated, it's a wonder how he can walk through doorways with such a big head. You need a partner to join the stare, Michelle says, looking at the piece of paper she picked out from the jar. Mark's eyes shoot to mine, and I want to kick him in the shin for even considering it. Don't you dare. I'll choose Debbie, he says, his voice dripping with total satisfaction. My mouth hangs open. I stare at him wide-eyed as the room erupts into laughter. Then I shoot Michelle a look. Her eyes wrinkle at the corners as her face breaks into the evilest grin. Perfect, she said. Chapter 2. Mark. Debbie is the ultimate tease. She's sitting right next to me, and the warmth of her bare leg pressing against my jeans makes my heart race. The way her bottom lip puckers as she pouts encourages me to wind her up even more. Sure, she can play the act and pretend she hates being in the same room as me, but we both know that's not true. Not after last summer. I don't think I've had a restful night since. Debbie had her hair up in a loose bun, flyaway hairs framed her gorgeous face and rested on her round cheekbones. Everyone was out celebrating. With graduation behind us and a whole host of possibilities ahead, we all felt like there was nothing we couldn't achieve. Debbie has been pretending to hate me for years, which I know is her way of flirting with me, and I freaking love it. Especially the way her cheeks grow rosy when she furrows her brows at me, obviously trying to act mad. But we both know she's just resisting the urge to make out with me. Just the thought of kissing her sends my brain into overdrive. I can still remember the taste of her cherry lip balm and the pressure of her hands against my chest. I'm sure she could feel my heartbeat thumping against the palms of her hands. Right. Mark and Debbie, here's your dare. Michelle's words drag me out of a delicious replay, and I zone in on Michelle, waiting for our challenge. I'm hoping it's a good one. Maybe we'll have to make out right here, right now. Once our friends watch Debbie succumb to my charm and moan like she did last summer, she'll have to stop playing the I hate you card. Because frankly, it's getting old, and I'm not sure anyone else is buying it, not even her twin sister, Katya. Just tell us already, Debbie snaps at Michelle with her arms folded. Hey, careful. Anyone might think you're actually excited about this. I tease her. She shoots me a dark look before turning away again. The rest of the room laughs. I dare you both to spend the night in the basement. Alone. Michelle's face is flushed and the girls gasp, while the guys wolf whistle. I make a mental note to buy Michelle an expensive Christmas present this year. I've hit the jackpot. A whole night with this gorgeous dynamite girl. There's definitely going to be fireworks. Best dare ever. No way. Debbie's sharp words wipe the smile off my face, and I look at her as if she just announced that Christmas is canceled. Why not? You're not scared of me, are you? I ask in a jovial manner, but underneath it all, I can't help but worry. Am I being delusional? Does she really hate me? The corners of her mouth twitch, and she gives me a steady glare. But there's a twinkle in her eye. No, she says, a smirk creeping across her face. I relax into the couch, and the knots in my stomach loosen. Last time we went down there, a giant spider crawled on my leg. Katya howled and pointed at her. I forgot about that. Don't worry. You'll have Mark with you to protect you from creepy crawlies, Cameron says as he nudges me. I square my shoulders and grin at him. Right, let's do this thing, I say, clapping and rising to my feet. You're not serious. This isn't happening. I turn back to find Debbie protesting to Michelle, who flicks her dark hair back and lifts her brows with an expectant smile. You can always take the forfeit, she offers, flashing her pearly whites. Debbie hums and grazes a finger across her lips with thought. What's the forfeit? Holly asks, twirling her golden hair around her finger. I notice Cameron staring, entranced by her every move. You have to go skinny dipping in the lake, Michelle says triumphantly. I scratch my jaw. I'm game for that, I say mildly. Even better than staying in the basement for the night. But Debbie gives me a look that could kill. Fine, but I'm taking these. She grabs the giant bowl of chips and a packet of donuts. I pick up a couple of drinks and follow her out of the room. The guys start wolf whistling again. You'll be locked in. Just make sure you don't go running away in the middle of the night, Michelle says. Debbie turns back and a look of horror flashes across her face. Then she nods. Fine. She turns back and stomps down the basement steps like a teenager. If I didn't know better, I'd find it irritating. But once that door is closed and no one is around to see, her frown will vanish and she'll melt in my hands like butter. The door swings shut and the lock clicks. A bubble of excitement grows in my chest, and I promise myself that the next time that door opens, Debbie will be mine. All mine. Chapter 3. Debbie. Of all the dares and of all the people to be doing this with, I never, ever imagined that I would be spending the night locked in a basement with Mark. It's awkward. We have history. But Michelle doesn't know that. She only suspects there's something between us. Even though I've put all my energy into avoiding the guy and telling Michelle how much I don't like him. Yet, somehow, she knows. As if best friends have the ability to read minds. Mark had spent our entire time at college teasing me. He knew exactly how to push my buttons and crawl under my skin. And for some crazy reason, he gets a rise out of seeing me angry. I have Italian blood in me. I can't help having a hot temper, and since graduation, the stress of finding a job using my philosophy degree has put me on edge. Turns out, there's not much out there. So I'm stuck working for Bed Bath & Beyond while I figure it out. Meanwhile, Mark, who studied journalism, lands himself his own column in a national paper. His own column! I stuff a handful of chips in my face and collapse on the tiny sofa bed sitting in the middle of the dimly lit room. Wow, you can see why Michelle calls this the Batcave, Mark says as he descends the stairs. The walls are painted black, and an entire wall is covered by a projector screen. Movie room would be a better name, but her brother used to live in the basement until he got a job in Texas and moved out. I guess the name stuck. Mark shakes his dark hair. It curls around his ears, and he gives me a smolder, his eyes twinkling. It sends shivers of excitement through me, but I clamp my teeth against my lip to stop myself from smiling. Don't do that, I blurt, rubbing the goosebumps on my arms. Mark sets the drinks on the coffee table and joins me on the sofa. His body heat is like a furnace. It's as if flames are burning my cheeks as he rests his arm behind me on the back of the couch. Do what? He asks in a deliciously low tone. He knows exactly what he's doing. I stare at him for a moment. He licks his bottom lip as he meets my gaze. You drive me crazy. Do you know that? I stand up and grab a drink as Mark chuckles to himself. The feeling is mutual, he shoots back. I glance at him and feel torn. Part of me wants to slap that stupid smirk off his face. The other part wants to grab his neck and throw myself onto his lips. We're going to be in here for a while. What do you want to do to pass the time? He asks. My cheeks are flaming hot by now as my eyes scan his perfectly formed muscles. His white shirt leaves little up to the imagination, and even if it did, my memory can fill in the blanks. There's a bunch of movies down here. What are you in the mood for? I wander over to a cabinet and open it up, looking at the stack of discs. Now that I think about it, there are worse places to get locked in than Michelle's basement. At least there's a bathroom, snack bar, and an unlimited supply of movies to watch. Of course, there's only one couch, and my company is not only outrageously sexy, but also equally annoying. Whatever you want, I'm easy, Mark says from the couch. I stifle a laugh. Yes, too easy. I bet if I jumped on him right now, he wouldn't protest. I push the thought out of my mind, grab a random disc, and march across the room. Why do you hate me? Mark's question stops me in my tracks. His eyes become wide and sincere, and for a moment, I forget that he's the biggest jerk on the planet and see him as a sweet little boy just wanting to be loved. I don't hate you, I reply carefully. I walk over to the console and insert the disc, chewing my lip with thought. Then why do you act like you hate me? I turn around with surprise at this sudden change in attitude, but it's better than having him come on to me, so I decide to just go with it. There's things I don't like about you, I say, twirling my hair and averting my eyes from his steady gaze. Want to tell me what they are? What? Here? Now? Well, we're not exactly going anywhere. Mark chuckles again. You've got a captive audience, so why not? He pats the space on the couch beside him. I hesitate. You want me to list the things I don't like about you? I ask incredulously. There's a list? Mark shakes his head to himself. Yes, I would like to know. Besides, if you tell me what you don't like about me, I'll tell you what I don't like about you. His words sting, but I take a deep breath. Well, if it stops us from doing something we'd regret in the morning, okay, deal. I hand him a drink and sit on the couch. What I don't like about you? Number 1. Chapter 4. Mark. This will be interesting. I didn't think there could be a whole list of things Debbie doesn't like about me. On the one hand, I'm intrigued. Just what is it about me that rubs her up the wrong way? On the other hand, I'm worried that this is going to be painful. Maybe this was Michelle's master plan. Lock us in a room and force us to talk about our feelings. Something I'm not very good at. You're arrogant, Debbie says bluntly. I look at her mildly offended, but I cannot think of a reply. I can see how it might seem like I'm arrogant. My dad taught me that to survive in this world, a man needs to assert himself. He needs to show everyone he's confident and capable. So even if my head is full of doubts, I play it cool. At all times. I'm not arrogant. I think aloud. Debbie scoffs and drags her fingers through her glossy brown hair. I watch, aching to do the same and caress her cheek. Instead, I clear my throat. I just act confident. Debbie hums in thought and gives me a wry smile. I can't take my eyes off her delicate lips. Don't tell me underneath the cocky alpha male act, there's an insecure man just hoping the world won't see through it. She nestles into the couch, lifting her legs and tucking her feet underneath her. The TV remote lies untouched on the coffee table, and I get the feeling that she has forgotten about the movie. I wouldn't call myself insecure, I correct her. Insecure sounds weak, pathetic. But sometimes I worry. I stop talking, trying to find the words to convey my feelings, but it's not easy. Debbie's smile falls and her brows pinch together as she touches my arm briefly. Worry about what? She asks. The tone of her voice is softer now, and she looks at me with a kind of intensity that makes me wonder if she can see right into my soul. If I'll ever be good enough, I blurt. An awkward silence follows as Debbie looks down, and I wrestle with my thoughts. Did I say too much? Should I explain? Debbie and I have known each other since high school, which might explain why she has this skewed impression of me. I was arrogant, especially in senior year. But I was captain of the football team, I had cheerleaders falling at my feet, and I was getting straight A's. I was flying high, and nothing could get in my way. Those were the days. It's pretty hard to keep yourself from being overconfident when it feels like you have the whole world in your hands. Debbie and Katya were too involved with the drama geeks to fit in with my crowd, but they were popular with the guys. Who doesn't love the idea of having a beautiful twin on each arm? When I got into college, everything changed. I went from top of the pack to runt of the litter in a matter of weeks. I thought I knew everything and had it all figured out, but college life was a whole other ballgame. If it wasn't for our gang of misfits, college would have destroyed me. Okay, so what's next? I ask, shaking my thoughts away. Debbie looks up at me, dazed, as if she was lost in her own. Huh? Oh, right. She takes a deep breath and flicks her hair back. What I don't like about you, number two. You're too positive. What? I say blankly. Too positive? You're saying that's a bad thing. I drag my hands over my face, then I point at Debbie. So let me get this straight. You think I should be more negative? A flush of color floods Debbie's face as she grins at me. You know what I mean, she says with a laugh. She nudges my arm, and I can't decide whether to nudge her back or grab her arm and pull her in for a kiss. Curiosity gnaws at my stomach. No, I don't. You'll have to explain this one to me. I pick up my drink and give her an expectant look. Debbie chews her lip, and her gorgeous eyes shoot to the ceiling. Okay, look. She straightens her posture and eyes me seriously. It's great to be positive. I get that. But sometimes when you're having a lousy day, the last thing you need is a ray of sunshine rolling in telling everyone to smile. I've never done that. Told someone to smile? Yes, you have. Who? Me. I whistle and rub the back of my neck, struggling to think of a single time I've told Debbie to smile, especially when she's having a bad day. I wouldn't do that. Remember that thing you say? Careful. If the wind blows, your face will stay that way. It's infuriating. Debbie throws her hands up to the ceiling as she complains, as if heaven can see her, in the basement. You know, these are not too serious. I think you're struggling to find reasons to hate me. I don't hate you, remember? Debbie's face softens and she shifts her weight, biting her lip in the most teasing way. I can't even think straight. Here we are, locked in a basement, all alone, and I'm pretty sure Debbie is running out of excuses not to kiss me. Anything else, or is that it? Debbie leaps to her feet and crosses the room with her arms folded. Her hips sashay with her movements, and my eyes linger on the narrow of her back, just where the bottom of her hair reaches. If there is a heaven, I'll never make it there with the thoughts going through my mind. She turns in a swift move, like a dancer, and stands poised and elegant. Her hands rest on her hips, and she pouts at me. It's almost too much to handle. She's impossible to resist. Flashes of memories invade my mind. My hands running across the curve of her hips and squeezing her thighs, her breath tickling my neck and the press of her velvet lips burning my skin. My throat constricts at the thought. You always get what you want, Debbie says firmly, her arms now folded. Scrap that. You always get anything or anyone you want. I find myself on my feet, but I don't remember leaving the couch. The statement burns somewhere in my chest and my stomach clenches. That's not true. The words fly out of my mouth like a roar. It takes me back. Where did that even come from? The sound of laughter and voices fade from upstairs, and Debbie's eyes widen as she takes a step back. Hey, is everything okay down there? Ryder's muffled voice calls out from behind the door. I mouth an apology to Debbie as she shouts back up. Don't worry, we're fine. She takes a moment to look at me furtively. Then she turns away. She plays with her hair and hums to herself as if thinking about the situation. Meanwhile, I stand frozen on the spot, heart pumping fast and my hands trembling like an idiot. Debbie has always had the ability to push my buttons in ways I never think possible. Arrogance, I can understand. Positivity, it's a silly one, but I get it. Thinking I always get what I want, she couldn't be more wrong. Well, that was an odd reaction, Debbie finally says, breaking the awkward silence. She returns to the couch with a bowl of chips and stuffs a handful in her mouth. Want to explain? As if on autopilot, I sit next to her and rub my sweaty palms on my jeans. Does she not realize how badly I want her? Can she really be that ignorant? You think I always get what I want? Seriously? I say, winded. I rub my aching chest and look at her with disbelief. She merely shrugs back, still munching. You got everything. The nice house in Manhattan, not some tiny apartment in the Bronx, your own column, a nice car, and you're always out partying with girls. Sounds like you've been stalking me on Instagram, I tease. Debbie's face grows red as her cheeks dimple. The thought of her scrolling through my social media ignites a fire of excitement within me. You don't get it, Debbie says, her face falling. I've dreamed my whole life of becoming a writer, touring the world, giving seminars, and meeting people. But instead, I'm stuck managing the hardware department in Bed, Bath, and Beyond. And instead of going out to glitzy parties, I'm at home watching Netflix or doing stupid dares. But you hate parties, I add, cocking a brow at her. And you love staying at home watching Netflix. Debbie shoots me a look. It's a mixture of surprise and annoyance. How did you know that? I tap my nose. But how hard is it to believe that I would know her after all these years? My hand moves without warning, and I grasp her cheek, caressing her smooth skin with my thumb. And there's something else, I mumble, leaning in. Debbie's breath catches with a gasp, and her eyelashes flutter as she glances at my mouth. You said I always get who I want. Debbie nods and exhales as I graze her bottom lip with my fingertip. Then tell me something, I say, barely above a whisper, inching my forehead closer to hers. If I always get who I want, why is it that after you gave me the most passionate kiss of my entire life, you then left me high and dry in the summer? I survey Debbie's face closely as she gasps again. A flush of color rises from her collarbone to her cheeks. I, I, she stammers, but no other words come out. Tell me, Debbie, why have you been avoiding me ever since? Did you not like kissing me? Was it bad? Debbie's eyes are still focused on my mouth. Her breaths come out short and ragged. It would be so easy to pull her in and taste her again. The allure of her perfume is intoxicating, and it takes every ounce of my resolve to hold back. But I have to know what she's thinking. Do you regret that night? I ask, dreading the answer. It was a night that will be forever etched in my memory. Definitely in the top 3 of my life's highlights so far. Debbie's breaths tickle my lips, and she looks at me through her dark lashes. My hand is frozen on her cheek, and I hold my breath, waiting. I do regret it, she says finally, and the words sink like heavy rocks to the bottom of my stomach. My hand falls to my lap, and I pull away. Right, I say, clearing my throat and swallowing against a lump. Well, there you have it. I do not get whoever I want. I gesture to her and give a frank smile before averting my eyes, because all I've ever wanted is you. There, I said it. Finally, my brain and my mouth made connection, and I'm able to finally express my true feelings. With no jibe, no smirk, not even a hint of sarcasm either. I'm pretty impressed, but Debbie's reaction hits me like a dagger to the heart. I'm not sure what I expect. A kiss, a sigh, maybe an apology. No, she laughs. Debbie laughs so loudly she's doubled over, tears running down her face and cheeks flushed. I watch her, blinking in silence and wondering just what is so funny. Well, that went down like a lead balloon. Chapter 5. Debbie. I have this terrible habit when it comes to awkward moments. When we were kids, Katya fell off the swings and broke her arm. She cried so much that within minutes we were surrounded by our parents and other kids at the park. We were hurried into the car, and Dad raced us to the hospital. It was traumatizing, and Katya wailed almost the entire time. Normal people would show concern, even if they were only 8 years old. But I did the unthinkable. I laughed. And I've just done it again. Thing is, Mark's line is so unexpected and cheesy. How can I not laugh? All he's ever wanted is me? What a joke. The tears in my eyes do not obscure my vision enough to miss the hurt on his face, and a twinge of guilt pangs my stomach. I take a moment to recover and find myself on my feet. How can I come back from this? I know. Play the mad card. You have a funny way of showing it, I say in an accusatory tone. Mark looks at me with surprise and shrugs. What's that supposed to mean? He asks, bewildered. How long have we known each other? Since freshman year? And you mostly ignored the fact I existed until senior year. You've teased me mercilessly ever since. Didn't anyone tell you that's how guys show they're into you? In kindergarten, yeah, but if you want me, the grown up thing to do is to ask me out, not make fun of me. I shoot back, planting my hands firmly on my hips. I sound like my mother. Mark rises and takes my hand. His skin is hot to touch, and I worry if he holds me for too long, I'll start to melt. But last summer, don't you remember? My breath comes out shallow as my shoulders slump. Last summer, all of us went to a cabin at the lake to celebrate our graduation. Drinks were flowing. The moon was huge, and it illuminated the water in the most transcendental way. I never drink, but what I thought was a tonic water had something a lot stronger slipped in. It burned the back of my throat and lowered my defenses. The result? I flirted shamelessly with Mark, cozied up to him, rubbed his back, pecked his cheek. He should have stopped me, walked away, realized I was not acting like myself, but he went along with it. He fisted my hair as I grasped his neck, and the two of us made out under the moonlight until our lungs ached. We broke apart, breathless. Then Mark took my hand and pressed his lips on the back of it. I've wanted to do that for the longest time, he muttered into my ear. His breath tickled my cheeks and he smoothed my hair away from my face. Things would have gone farther that night. I eyed him brazenly and clutched his forearms, licking my lips. I wanted it to go farther. But just as Mark leaned in for another kiss, the drink made an unexpected reappearance, all over his shirt. Horrified is not a strong enough word. I dashed back into the cabin and locked myself in the bathroom. Neither of us had spoken about that moment since, until now. My cheeks are on fire, and I want the ground to swallow me up. How could he bring this up now? I'm so sorry about your shirt, I stammer. Mark's lips curve upward as he sweeps my hair away from my temple. You think you're the first girl to throw up on me? He asks with a smirk. My face contorts as I consider it. Gross. The next thing I know, my face is planted on his chest and Mark's arms are tightly enveloping my body. As he laughs, his hard pectorals seem to vibrate against my forehead. I can't decide if it's comforting or not. A bubble of laughter threatens to escape my lips again. I clamp my teeth against the growing smile and try to control myself. He kisses the top of my head, and I back away, free from his hold but still breathless. My mouth is dry, and I swallow and I blink at him, wondering what to do. Didn't you, um... I begin slowly. I'm stalling. My brain has nothing to add to the question. Right, Mark says with a shake of his head. He seems to know what I'm going to say, even though my mind is totally blank. What I don't like about you. The words sting. Oh, right. We're supposed to be telling each other what we don't like about each other. Worst game in human history. Especially now that all I want to do is make up for lost time and wrestle him to the couch. Are you done? Mark asks. I knit my lip and widen my eyes. Did he read my mind? Is my attraction to him that obvious? He lifts a brow at me with a wry smile. There's nothing else you don't like about me. A flush of heat rises to my face again as I realize he's not reading my mind after all. If he could, he would drop the stupid game and take me in his burly arms. I'm so hot I want to fan myself. I shake my head at him, silent and taken aback. He grins, delighted. Okay, take a seat. It's my turn. Chapter 6. Mark. Debbie is so cute. She obeys and perches on the edge of the couch, as if worried a bomb will go off if she relaxes. I rest my hand on her knee, and she flinches. What I don't like about you, number one, I begin, enjoying every second of this. Debbie's wide eyes are fixed on me, and her face pales. She's probably waiting for a tirade of insults to fly out of my mouth. You jump to conclusions. Her arched brows rise, but she remains silent. I can't decide if she's letting me explain or in shock. You've been avoiding me, and now I think I know why. Debbie's mouth hangs open to form the perfect O. Her eyes fly to the ceiling, and she takes in a deep breath. I didn't know if... Right. I finish for her, taking her hand and giving it a squeeze. You didn't know because you didn't talk to me. I mean, Debbie, this is the longest we've been in the same room since that night. Debbie presses her lips together in a pout as her gaze falls to our hands. She squeezes back, and it sends a rush of warmth all the way up my arm. There's another thing I don't like, I say softly. I tilt her head up to look at me with my knuckle, and I graze her bottom lip with my thumb. You gave me the wildest, most passionate kiss of my entire life. Then you left. And it's been replaying in my mind every day ever since. Debbie doesn't speak, but I can almost see in her eyes that she's wrestling with her thoughts. I'm sorry, I blurt. My chest tightens, my stomach is doing flips. Maybe I'll throw up, and even the score? Who knows? At this point, I'm pretty sure anything can happen tonight. I'm sorry I was a jerk, and I'm sorry I didn't just ask you out. You make me nervous and awkward. Debbie doesn't allow me to finish. Instead, She stops me mid-sentence with her lips. I moan as the knots in my stomach finally release and every inch of my body tingles. Her hands reach the back of my head, then my neck, and she squeezes. I grab her tiny waist and lift her onto my lap. Her mouth fits perfectly with mine. It's like we are two broken pieces, and together we're whole. Our noses nuzzle as we pivot side to side. She moans and deepens our kiss to the point where I become lightheaded. She is passion, the embodiment of love. I grab her back, shoulders, and neck, and I squeeze her thighs. I want to press my hands all over her body to check she's real and this isn't a dream. Her lips leave my mouth, and I'm in agony. I don't want to be apart from her ever again. All of this was just a huge misunderstanding. Now we've cleared that up. There's no reason not to kiss until we die. You drive me crazy, she whispers in my ear before planting kisses along my jawline. I clutch her thighs and throw my head back with a grunt. The feeling is mutual, I manage to say in a breathy voice. Debbie sits back, her face flushed, and a massive beam takes over her face. She looks pleased with herself. I wonder why we've stopped making out, but she appears to be thinking. There's a bathroom down here. I'm going to take a quick shower, Debbie says as she climbs off me and straightens her shirt. Great idea. I'll join you, I say with a grin. Debbie's hands fly to her mouth as she laughs. No, you won't. I frown. Am I misreading signals here? That kiss, that flaming hot makeout session. How can it not lead to a steamy makeout session in the shower? Not here. Everyone is right above us, and we should take things slow. I'm nodding along, but on the inside, I'm shaking my head. Sure, I understand. It's a lie. I do not understand at all. My stomach drops as I watch her disappear behind a door. Then I throw my head into my hands and sigh, willing my stiff muscles to calm down. I want to hold her and never let her go for as long as I live. I need her. Maybe she worries that what we have is just physical, that things between us can never last. I need to convince her that I'm in this for the long haul, that I'm all hers if she'll have me. Please, let her have me. Chapter 7. Debbie. Michelle, you have to let us out, I whisper into the phone. Michelle laughs. What's going on? You sound breathless. I am breathless. My lips are numb and my mind is racing. Mark was kissing me, grabbing me, tasting me. It was all too much to handle. Then he wanted to shower with me. I can't take it. The temptation is too strong. There's no way we'll make it to morning without taking things too far. You two made out, didn't you? Michelle's knowing voice cuts into my thoughts. My stomach clenches as the chatter in the background dies off. What? I hear Katya exclaim. She knew about the kiss, but I insisted it was a stupid mistake and made her promise not to breathe a word to anyone. As far as she is concerned, I hate Mark, and I've always hated Mark. Funny how fine the line is between hate and love. Let me talk to her. The line crackles, then I hear Katya's voice loud and clear. Do you need us to get you out? Are you okay? I'm hiding in the bathroom, I whisper back as I fumble with the faucet to turn the shower on. What happened? It's not true, is it? You didn't make out with Mark? Katya does little to hide the repulsion in her voice. My silence seems to do all the talking, and she makes a noise of disgust. Debbie! Hey, I'm a grown woman. I can do what I like, I say defensively. Why are you hiding in the bathroom? Michelle's back on the phone again. I don't know what to do. He wanted to join me in the shower. The words sound so much more scandalous out loud than in my head. Michelle hums knowingly. I'm so glad you two managed to smooth things out, and I'm impressed it's only been a few hours. I swallow hard and grin to myself. How did you know? I saw you two by the lake when I was getting drinks last summer, and the way you would react when he entered the room, the ridiculous, over the top act about how much you hate him, was just such a giveaway. So, when you said this dare would change our lives? I ask, catching her train of thought. What better way to get you two back on track than to lock you in a basement? Michelle says simply. Well, it did work. Thanks, Michelle, I say warmly. So, do you want to forfeit the dare? And go skinny dipping? Yeah, no thanks. No, on second thought, it's okay. It's going to be morning soon. I hang up the phone and take a steadying breath. Then I decide I might as well take a shower. Better make it a cold one. Chapter 8. Mark. The door clicks and my neck cracks as I turn my head to look at Debbie as she re enters the room. Her hair hangs below her shoulders, wetting her shirt, and her fresh face is slightly red, now free of makeup. Hey, you, I say, patting on the bed. While Debbie was in the shower, I took the opportunity to convert the couch into a bed. She eyes it warily, chewing her lip in a way that has me hot under the collar again. I promise I'll be a gentleman. I just want to talk. With amusement, I notice a slight look of disappointment wash over Debbie's face as she lowers herself onto the mattress. I want you to know that I believe you can achieve whatever you want. I plant my hand on her shoulder. The problem is, I don't think you've really thought about it. Debbie shrugs my hand away and crosses her legs. What do you mean? Well, you took philosophy, and during the many nights the gang have been talking about their dream jobs, you didn't join in. Is it really a surprise that you're not where you want to be? You don't even know what you want. Debbie tucks her hair behind her ear and looks down sheepishly. I guess I never thought about it like that, she says admittedly. I just expected something to happen after graduation. So you know you don't want to work at Bed Bath & Beyond for the rest of your life. Do you know what your dream job looks like? Debbie shrugs again with a chuckle. It's dumb. Tell me. I want to know. I insist. I'm fighting against some very strong urges to throw her on her back and ravish her on the bed. I need her to know I can be there for her emotionally more than physically. Well, I guess I pictured myself doing seminars and traveling. I want to see the world. I want to understand different cultures. I'll take you wherever you want to go. I grasp her hand in mine and look deeply into her eyes. I believe in you, and I promise to have your back. Debbie's eyes tear up as she looks back at me. I think I misjudged you, she says. Her voice is shaking. You're really just a care bear underneath that cocky, alpha male act, aren't you? No one has ever called me a care bear before. I smirk at her. Want to know something I love about you? Her eyes widen at the sound of my words, and she gives me a nod. I clear my throat. I love how when I'm holding you, I feel like I'm home. So we can travel. It doesn't matter where. Because as long as you take my hand, I'll be right where I'm supposed to be. Debbie bites her lip with a grin. So you want to do this? She asks coyly. Be together? I cradle her face in my hands and plant a chaste kiss on her swollen lips, then dip my head and rest against her forehead with a sigh. I've never wanted anything more in my life, I whisper with fervor. Okay, she whispers back. we break apart and lose ourselves in each other's gaze.
We'd better seal it with a kiss.
A rush of excitement floods my entire body as I give her a broad smile and lean in one last time. The end. Dare number 1. Kiss me like you mean it. Holly and Cameron story. Chapter 1. Holly. I, Holly Chapman, solemnly swear to devote the rest of my 20s to embracing my authentic self. No more people-pleasing, no more hiding from adult responsibilities. I will schedule my own doctor's appointments, not get my mom to do it for me. I will never slack on the laundry again. And most of all, I am going to get out of the friend zone with Cameron James. I've been into Cameron since the first day of high school. There he was, sitting across from me in drama class. His ruffled chocolate brown hair was sticking up in all directions, and he was wearing a pair of shredded jeans and a faded denim jacket. He looked so cool. For a drama kid, anyway. Our eyes locked for the first time, his eyes twinkled, and he smiled at me. That's all it took. I've been besotted ever since. The problem is, acting like one of the guys is how I flirt. I punched him, ruffled his hair, laughed too loudly at his jokes, and before I knew it, I was in the friend zone. Being Cameron's best friend has been great. Don't get me wrong. We spent most of our teen years playing computer games and eating pizza until the early hours. We tell each other everything, from the embarrassing dreams about our teeth falling out to the darkest fears of our future. But now, we're supposed to be adults. Fresh out of college, we've left home, got jobs, and now we need to have everything figured out. Cameron got a job at a drama club at the local community center. He teaches troubled teens and gives his heart and soul to those kids. Just thinking about it makes my heart squeeze so tight I could pass out. I, on the other hand, have bigger ambitions. After landing an agent, I've been taking on whatever role I can get. Sure, it's mostly TV commercials and voiceover work for phone apps, but my big break is coming. I can feel it. Since Debbie and Mark followed through with their dare to spend the night locked in Michelle's basement, they've been joined at the hip. It's gross, actually. These days, those two are either bickering over ridiculous things like what brand of bacon is the saltiest, or making out. There is no in between. I can't blame them. They're just making up for lost time. I like to imagine Cameron and I, when we finally break down the friendship barriers and confess our undying love for each other, will be just as annoying to the rest of the group. The doorbell rings and pulls me out of my head to notice that I've been folding and unfolding the same napkin for the last half hour. Michelle has this plan for 4 parties and 4 dares. She says it's a psychological experiment for her masters. Who am I to argue with that? I'll do anything to support a friend, especially if that means Cameron and I might get locked in a basement. I pray it's a good, juicy dare. I pull open the door and Michelle beams at me. "Ready?" she asks, throwing her slender arms around me in a hug. "As I'll ever be," I say, letting her in. Michelle pulls out a glass jar from her bag and sets it on the coffee table. "How does this work exactly? Don't you already have the dares picked out for each couple?" I ask, eyeing the papers in the glass. Michelle leans in and taps her nose with a devilish grin. "Can you keep a secret?" No, I am the worst person on the planet at keeping secrets. She knows that. But despite myself, I nod like an overenthusiastic puppy. Michelle shakes her head with a laugh. "You know what? I'll tell you at the end." Before I can argue my case, the doorbell rings again, and there are suddenly butterflies fluttering in my stomach. I swallow and smooth out my pink knee-length dress as I hurry to the front door again. Hey, you two, I say through a fake grin as Debbie and Mark walk in, once again joined at the hip. Mark slinks his arm around Debbie, who strokes his chest like she can't stop touching him. Oh, cute, you put up bunting, Debbie says, looking up at the pink and white decorations. Mark wastes no time helping himself to a drink as the doorbell rings again. This time, Jonah and Ryder file in. Katya follows, handing me a casserole dish wrapped in foil. Just made a little something, she says with a casual shrug. She's the best cook in the group. I give it a sniff and my insides quiver with excitement. There's nothing better than Katya's homemade lasagna. I hover near the door as everyone settles in the living room, lost in casual conversation. How is everyone else so calm and blissfully unaware of my frayed nerves? Jonah turns on the hi-fi and plays some awful rock music. The steady thump of the beat pounds my chest and I glance at the clock in the hall. He's late. Shall we get started? Michelle asks, lifting the jar from the coffee table. Everyone gathers on the couch and makes noises of intrigue as Jonah lowers the volume on the hi-fi. I watch them from the hall, a trembling mess. Cameron isn't here yet, I say, trying hard to keep my voice steady. Thank goodness for acting. I pretend that I'm just pointing out the fact, keeping my expression neutral and hoping no one sees past the act. Inside, I'm full of jitters. He's always late, Ryder mutters, his dark brows furrowed. Besides, he's not going to mind missing out on this, he adds. Ryder is a nice guy. He's introverted and a bit of a nerd, but he's always been down to earth and never said anything to hurt me. Until now. Cameron won't miss this. It's supposed to be my turn. Sure, we started with Spin the Bottle, but Michelle promised me I could go next. And who am I going to choose to do the dare with if Cameron isn't here? Well, it sure isn't going to be Ryder. His dark eyes move back to his laptop screen. The harsh glare illuminates his face, and I can't see even a hint of regret. He probably has no idea that he's now earned himself a new title. Ryder Black, Crusher of Dreams. We can wait, Katya suggests, looking at me like I'm a lost puppy. I realize my nonchalant expression has slipped into a devastated frown. Katya is also the empath of the group, and judging by the fact that no one else is even looking my way, I think she's the only one who catches my reaction. I fix my smile and march into the living area. Should we tell them? Mark says, looking at Debbie with a wicked grin. Debbie's hand flies to her chest. Now? She asks. A sparkle blinds me for a second, and I rub my eyes like a cartoon character. Then I gawp at her. Is that? I blurt. But Katya interrupts me, grabbing her twin sister's hand and staring at it open-mouthed. You got engaged! The words ring in my ears like the bells of Notre Dame. A few weeks ago, Debbie and Mark were at each other's throats. Now they're getting married. I'm not sure whether I feel inspired or depressed by the revelation. Congratulations, I force out as everyone else rallies around them. I glance at the hall, wondering if anyone might notice if I creep out of the room and hide. Without Cameron here to flirt with, this party is going to be an incredible bore. Now the conversation moves on to the topic of wedding dresses and who will be a bridesmaid, and my night goes from dull to unbearable. The doorbell rings and I leap to my feet as if I've been zapped by an electric eel. Oh, the sweet, shrill tones of my doorbell to the rescue. That'll be the pizza, I exclaim, smiling genuinely now. The thought of a greasy, stuffed crust pepperoni pizza to dip into a slice of Katya's rich lasagna is enough to turn any frown upside down. Cameron thinks it's gross to dip pizza in lasagna, but to me, it's heaven. My stomach does a little excited dance as I swagger to the door with my wallet. You're my hero, I boldly claim as I pull the door open, thumbing through the dollar bills. How much do I owe you? I look up from my wallet and my mouth falls open. It's not the pizza guy. Well, seeing as you brought it up, you still owe me $20 from the movie last month. Cameron James grins at me from my doorstep. I pause for a split second to take in his dark, ruffled hair and his casual shirt half tucked into his black jeans. His stubble jaw makes him look like a modern-day pirate, and despite the awkward encounter, all I want to do is grab him by the collar and pull him in for a long, overdue first kiss. I lick my lips instinctively as the thought crosses my mind, and I stand frozen, unable to form a sentence. Sorry I'm late, Cameron says, stepping in. I'm still blocking the doorway, though, and he stops, his chest hovering half an inch away from my pounding heart. As his body heat radiates over me, my frozen position melts, allowing me to slip backward. No worries, I say, fighting my voice. A voice, rather, not mine, because the one I find is an octave higher than mine and it scratches my throat. Cameron's almond-shaped eyes crease in the corners as he grins for a second. Then he turns to greet the rest of the gang. Debbie and Mark are getting hitched, Michelle cries as Cameron enters the room. I shut the door, my heart throbbing. Now he's got his back to me. I can't make out his expression. Shock? Horror? Total indifference? Cool, he says with a shrug. He and I reach for a potato chip at the same time. When our hands touch, a rush of heat goes right to my head. Sorry, you go ahead, he says in his deep, sexy voice. Katya's dark eyes beam at me as I look up, and I almost jump back at the severity of her gaze. Thank goodness looks can't really kill. Otherwise, I'd be nothing but a puff of black smoke right now. Her lips move, but I can't hear anything over the excited chatter. I know what she's thinking, though. Get a grip, you're beginning to swoon. Cameron takes a drink and settles on the arm of the couch, looking at Ryder's laptop, as if whatever is on the screen is a million times more interesting than what's going on in the room. A tiny part of my brain points out the fact that this party is pretty lame. The pizza is late, there's no music, and no one can decide on a movie to watch. I break away from Katya's discerning stare to put on my hostess hat. I clear my throat. This will be the best party ever. Am I a teeny tiny bit concerned my parents will kill me if someone spills red wine on the white Persian rug? Yes. Am I worried that if we get too loud, Mr. and Mrs. Frank from next door will call the cops? 100%. But am I going to let any of this get in the way of having the most memorable party on this side of the century? No freaking way. I twirl my blonde curls and clear my throat, putting on a big smile and prompting the chatter to die down. All eyes settle on me and become so quiet I worry that they can hear my heart beating like a drum. Welcome to the party, everyone. I'm super glad you could all make it. I begin. My posture straightens and I roll my shoulders back, boosting my confidence by the minute. Let's start with Michelle's experiment. Michelle rolls her eyes. Experiment? Oh, please, it's just an innocent game. That got us locked in a basement, Debbie finishes, elbowing her best friend. Mark pats her knee. Which reminds me, I owe you a drink. He winks at Michelle as the others guffaw. My stomach wobbles like a tower of jelly sitting on a maximum spin dryer. I'll grab the bottle, Michelle says, stooping down to root through her bag. Wait, I blurt. All eyes land on me again. Even Ryder looks up from his laptop. I can't let Michelle use the bottle tonight. What if it doesn't land on Cameron? I fiddle with the buttons on my dress and chew my lip, trying to think of a way to look a little less desperate and more like I've come up with a genius idea. Then an idea does strike me. How about we just forget the bottle? You told me it was my turn, and I already know who I want to do the dare with. The eyes staring at me grow wider, Michelle's brows rise so far up her forehead, I imagine they'll jump off her face and fly into the ceiling if she forces them any higher. How do you know they're all dares for couples? She asks. Someone snorts and Jonah shakes his head. Oh, come on, drop the act. This truth or dare experiment for my thesis, Michelle cuts in, is about couples. What is it anyway? You think you have a theory that you can manipulate people into getting engaged? Well, it won't happen to me. Jonah crosses his arms with a determined frown. For a splinter of a moment, a look of hurt crosses Michelle's face, but it fades quickly and she breaks into an evil grin. There's no fun in telling you. Yet, she says. Ryder raises his hand. If I'm honest, the bottle is a tad juvenile, don't you think? Ryder is a man of few words, and yet when he does speak, it is always right to the point. And that's the second time he's said something offensive tonight. He's on a roll. Michelle forces a smile, the kind she makes to people when she is secretly plotting their demise. Then she turns to me. Fine. It's your turn, Holly. Tell us, who do you want to be your partner for the dare? Or truth, Katya adds. No, I'm choosing a dare, I say before my brain can compute. I dig my fingernails into my palms until my eyes water at the pain. I choose Cameron. Chapter 2. Cameron. There's something off about Holly tonight, but I can't put my finger on what exactly. First, she's wearing a dress. I'm almost certain the last time she wore anything other than denim or black leggings was for prom. On top of that, it's a pink figure-hugging dress. Her slender shoulders and narrow waist are on full show, rather than hidden under an oversized sweater. And her hair, usually scraped back into a messy bun and sitting like a bird's nest atop her head, is hanging free in loose curls. She looks like a girl. I shake the thought out of my mind as my name escapes her lips. Am I surprised she chose me to do the dare with her? No, we're best friends and everyone else in the room has history. Still though. Okay, choose a paper, Michelle instructs, holding out a glass jar to Holly. Jonah nudges me, but I keep my eyes fixed on Holly, holding my breath. Your dare is... Michelle stops and looks around as we all lean in, hanging onto every word. My stomach clenches as her grin turns devilish. To make out on camera and upload the video to your social media profiles. The room explodes. Not literally, of course. The girls squeal with excitement and the guys sound like a bunch of chimpanzees. That's a juicy one, Jonah says, clapping me on the back. I imagine his eyes glinting as he grins at me, but I'm not paying any attention to him. Heck, the room could be full of chimpanzees and I wouldn't know. I can't keep my eyes off Holly. She won't look at me. She has her eyes focused on the floor, but the corners of her mouth lift, and the flush of color to her cheeks does something weird to my stomach. It's like I've swallowed a pill that is now effervescing like crazy inside of me. What's the forfeit? Ryder asks. Holly's head snaps up and her expression turns to horror, as if Ryder just dropped a stink bomb. We'll do it, she says firmly. I feel my brows go up. Does she want to do this? I'm an actor. I've kissed more than my fair share of leading ladies. In fact, I've never been in a serious relationship. The problem with acting is you lose a part of yourself. It's hard to know what feelings are real. Then there's the fact I've spent most of my life pretending to be strong. But that brings me to a topic I'm not willing to think too much about. Holly and I have been best mates since forever. We've been in plays together, but never in a romantic setting. So we've never kissed. But she's an actress too. A professional one.
I can't see this being a hard dare. Not on that front. It's the uploading to social media part that I feel nervous about. All of our friends and family will go nuts. My mom has been calling Holly the daughter she never had since we were in high school. She'll be on the phone in no time planning our wedding. Then there's my work. When you work with kids, there's an expectation to be a good example. I can't post anything sleazy online. A lot of the kids follow me. But maybe we can pull it off. We just have to make sure it looks like a romantic gesture and less like a drunken kiss. I snap out of my thoughts, suddenly aware that everyone is looking at me, and I have not said a word since the announcement. Holly's expectant eyes burn bright into my soul as she bites her lip. I've never thought about her lips before. Now I can't stop staring. Shall I set up the camera then? I offer with a shrug. I'm trying to sound casual and hoping no one picks up on the fact that my voice is a bit too high. Holly's expression turns to delight as she looks at Michelle. Okay, we're doing this.
Chapter 3. Holly. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. A part of me wants to run around the condo screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm finally going to make out with Cameron James. I'm buzzing with so much intensity I could burst at any moment. It's the perfect dare. I want to grab Michelle by the shoulders and kiss her. What better way to leave the friend zone than to lock lips with the man you love? Surely, as soon as our lips touch, Cameron will be consumed by the realization that the two of us are destined to be together. Why do I love Cameron? Let me count the ways. He smells good. Always. Even when he's been out playing soccer with the guys, he has that masculine scent that drives a woman crazy. And don't get me started on how hot he looks when he's been working on his dad's car for the day, covered in oil and wearing a ripped shirt, with his biceps shining with grease and sweat in the sunshine. Another reason why I love him, he makes me feel like I'm home. When we went on a school trip to Washington, D.C. in senior year for a week, I got homesick. I hated being away from my creature comforts. Cameron knew just what I needed. He snuck into my room, put on my favorite rom-com, and let me curl up in his arms. Another reason I love him, he reads me like a book. If I'm in a sad mood, no matter how chipper I try to be, he sees right through it and is the first person to offer me a hug. That should make the list as well. His hugs are the best. This party just got interesting, Ryder says. His words pull me out of my daydreams, and I notice the others have evacuated the couch. Cameron, meanwhile, has propped his phone up on Michelle's tripod. Ready? He asks, turning to me. His question hits me square between the eyes and my mouth turns dry. After all these years, after all this time, after all the sleepless nights I spent fantasizing about the day we finally kiss, the moment has arrived and I do not feel prepared. I'll be right back, I say, edging out of the room. Then I bolt up the hall to the bathroom. With the door shut and the sound of everyone's excited chatter muffled, I allow myself to take deep, ragged breaths. It's fine, I say aloud, looking at myself in the mirror. This is totally what I wanted. A knock on the door has me jump with a yelp. It's me, let me in. The soft voice of my bestie Katya settles my nerves a little, and I open the door for her. She enters and closes it behind her. Just checking to see if you're okay, she says. I shoot her a quizzical look. I'm great, I say. This is the best air ever. Is it? Katya asks. I frown back at her, wondering what the reason is behind her concern. Why do you ask?
Katya is the most sensible person I know. Maybe it's because she's been heartbroken in the past, or maybe it's the fact that her parents went through an ugly divorce during the whole of freshman year. She might be the same age as me, but she has more life experience. Have you thought about what will happen after? She asks, her voice lowered as if worried anyone else might hear. After? I repeat. I allow my mind to imagine the moment. Cameron leans in and takes fistfuls of my hair. I slide my hands over his broad shoulders, and we play tonsil tennis. We break apart, and Cameron confesses his love and devotion to me. Then we run off to Vegas and get married before anyone can change our minds. The image of Elvis singing at our wedding fades away as Katya's severe expression comes back into focus. You two have the best friendship in the world, she points out. What if this changes things? I shrug. That's kind of the point. You know how I feel about him. Just saying it out loud makes my heart race. We've been through this, Holly. If Cameron had feelings for you that way, surely he'd have said something by now. My frown deepens. Well, I feel that way about him, and I still haven't told him. Katya sighs and crosses her arms. Her dark eyes avert from mine, and she bites her lip. She knows she can't argue. I have a point. And even though the odds might be slightly against me, it is still totally possible that Cameron secretly dreams of being with me and just hasn't built up the courage to tell me yet. Do you really want to have your first kiss with Cameron like this, in front of all of us? You're already risking your friendship. Don't you want to give your relationship the best chance? Here's the thing about best friends. They tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Like the time I went to Katya's birthday party wearing a dress that had been left in the washer too long. You stink. Let's get you changed, Katya said. She grabbed my elbow and took me upstairs to give me another dress. At the moment, I hated her, but she was just looking out for me, and that's what a true friend does. Right now, though, I don't want her to look out for me. So I turn away from her disapproving look and grab the mouthwash. Thanks, Katya, I say through gritted teeth, opening the bottle, but I'll be fine. Katya knows when to drop an argument. She leaves me alone, and I take the time to freshen up for my big moment. Wolf whistles greet me as I return to the living room. Cameron is reclined on the couch, and everyone else is on the rug. Michelle dims the lights. Debbie lights candles in a uniform line on the coffee table, and I hope they don't scratch the glass top. My parents will definitely notice that. That's the stress of living in your grandmother's condo. It's great that my parents cover half the cost, but there's the constant worry of messing things up. All right, ready for this? Michelle asks. Cameron gives me a casual smirk as I sit next to him. I can't decide if it's the heat of the candles or his body, but my body is now on fire. Okay, so how are we going to do this? I ask. Cameron drags a hand through his thick hair and exhales. The puff of cool air could have sizzled if it made contact with my skin. It's just like kissing on stage, he says. I've kissed guys in drama class before, but those experiences are not the kind I like to think about. There was Marty with his horrible garlic breath. Justin gave slimy wet kisses, apparently with no clue what to do with his tongue. And then there was Freddie. He was stiff as a board, with lips that were dry as a desert. I inwardly shudder at the memory and blink at Cameron's smooth, perfect lips instead. His words do little to calm my nerves, and before I know it, someone shouts, "Action!" Time stands still. Cameron is hovering a couple of inches from me, waiting for me to close the space between us. but his face disappears from view as I picture Katya, frowning at me. This is the moment I've been waiting for since I first met Cameron. But instead of taking the bull with both horns, I'm picturing my best friend. I catch sight of my friends in my peripheral vision. The room is painfully silent. I can only hear Ryder's laptop fan whirring away. I lick my lips and swallow against the uncomfortable lump in my throat, wondering if Katya is right. Do I really want our first kiss to be like this? I clamp my eyes shut. I can't do this. Oh. I sneak a peek at Cameron with a wince, and for a glimmer of a second, he looks back at me like I've just canceled Christmas. But then he shrugs, and his expression is nonchalant again, so I'm not sure if I just imagined it. I can't do it like this, not with everyone watching, I explain, looking around the room. Michelle sighs. Well, you've got 24 hours to complete the dare. Otherwise, you have to do the forfeit. And what is the forfeit? Debbie asks. The corner of Michelle's narrow mouth lifts. Oh, the usual. Skinny dipping in the Hudson. Cameron's brows rise. I could get on board with that. Now, not only is my body on fire, but my cheeks are alight too. We'll do the video. I just need to do it without an audience. No one argues, thank goodness, and the arrival of the pizza diverts everyone's attention from me and the dare. Stay overnight. We'll do the dare tomorrow. I whisper to Cameron just as he takes a huge bite of pepperoni pizza. His cheeks bulge like a hamster and he chews thoughtfully. Then he nods and my heart flutters. Sure, I just chickened out of my first kiss with Cameron, but the idea of doing this dare without prying eyes makes my imagination run wild. Chapter 4. Cameron. It's not like Holly to suffer from stage fright. In fact, she's the brightest, breeziest person I know. At school, she'd be the one to deliver the pep talk before a show. She'd be bouncing with excitement before the curtain rolled back. And she's played spin the bottle before. I can't work out what's got into her today. So what if our friends are watching? It's just a simple dare. Holly avoids looking at me for the rest of the evening, and our challenge becomes the elephant in the room. It's 3 a.m. before the music is finally switched off, and the last of the guests, the lip lockers, Debbie and Mark, leave. They had no problem making out in front of us. It was funny at first, but now it's getting old. I don't know why those two even bother coming to the party. They just end up in a corner of the room, speaking to nobody and practicing mouth to mouth all night long. Funny how they had us all fooled that they hated each other. Turns out the line between hate and love is fine. Very fine indeed. The door closes, and for the first time in hours, Holly looks at me. Her hair is frizzing at the ends, and her dress is wrinkled from being curled up on the couch all night. But she still looks adorable. Great party, I lie. There wasn't anything great about it. Not for me, anyway. Katya and Michelle scrolled on their phones and took selfies, while Jonah and Ryder swapped fan theories on some zombie TV show I've never even heard of. Debbie and Mark kept to themselves, so that left Holly and me on the couch, which would have been cool if we had been bantering like we usually do. Tonight, she wouldn't even look at me. So I pretended to be highly interested in the chick flick on the big screen and knocked back root beers until my blood started to fizz. I'll grab you some blankets, Holly says, offering me a familiar smile. Her eyes sparkle and she turns to leave. Now alone in the living room, my chest grows heavy. It's as if Holly took all the air with her, leaving me to suffocate. Back, Holly says. Her voice is muffled and her face is obscured by a giant cushion. A waft of her perfume washes over me as I take the bedding and my fingertips brush her smooth arms. The moment sends a shiver through me and I hear her breath hitch. What's gotten into us? Has the idea of a fake makeout session really turned us into a couple of kids? I grin. She giggles. This is not normal. Usually, I'd pull her in for a hug and peck her cheek to say goodnight. No hesitation. Tonight, I take my time making up my bed on the couch and chew the inside of my cheek. Ideas are dangerous. Just the very thought of kissing my best friend has planted a seed in my mind. A seed that is growing like a weed, eating away all logical thought and taking over. I want to kiss her. It's wrong. This is Holly, for crying out loud. But I want to grab her and kiss her like a dying man in the desert longs for a drink of water. The urge is an ache in the deep heart of my stomach, and as I finally turn to face her again, I can't take my eyes off her round, full lips. Do you think we should practice this kiss then? Her lips ask me. I find myself nodding as I swallow. That pretty mouth could have asked me anything, and I would have said yes. Do you think the sky is brown? Yes. Do you want to clean the toilet with your bare hands? Sure. Do you want to eat a cricket? Why not? It just so happens she wants to practice the very act I can't stop thinking about. I'm pretty sure there's a little green leprechaun doing an Irish jig in my brain right now, but I keep my expression casual and relaxed. Now, I ask. I'm trying my best to sound politely interested and not like a little boy who has just been offered ice cream for dinner. Holly crosses the room in a playful bounce and settles on my makeshift bed. She pats the space next to her and looks up at me with bright eyes. We've been friends forever. Let's just have a quick practice so it's not awkward when we do it on camera, she says, playing with her hair. I join her on the couch and can't stop grinning. Excuse me, do what on camera? I tease. Her cheeks grow crimson and she throws a pillow at me. You know I didn't mean that. She laughs and I sit back to enjoy the moment. Seeing Holly laugh with her shoulders shaking and pearly whites on show settles my nerves. That's the Holly I know. I pick up her hand. So, how long do you think we need to kiss for it to count as a makeout session? I ask. Holly stops laughing and stares at me for a second, her eyes wide. I don't know. I squeeze her hand and tug on it, pulling her close. Well, come on then, I say. Holly giggles nervously, then she moves forward. The two of us linger a hair widths apart. Holly's blue eyes fill up all of my vision, like a summer sky, and I just gaze into them for a few moments. I had no idea her eyes are so blue, and they have a navy ring around the iris. On closer inspection, she even has a few specks of green in there as well. I spend so much time studying her eyes that I forget what we're supposed to be doing. But then Holly grasps a fistful of my shirt and the memory comes tumbling back at the exact moment her mouth closes on mine. Kissing Holly is not what I expected it to be. Granted, before tonight the thought never even crossed my mind. But in the last few hours, I imagined something passionate, tantalizing, a heart-thumping, spine-tingling moment to happily replay in my mind every day for the rest of my life. But it's nothing like that, not even close. Our mouths are off sync and our front teeth bump against mine. It's awkward. We're barely seconds into the kiss when she loosens her grip on my shirt and slumps back, a look of defeat across her face. "I'm sorry," I blurt. "I swear I'm a better kisser than that. The last time I had such an awkward time kissing a girl was in the 5th grade. Back then, I had no idea what I was doing. This time, I do. At least I should know better." But something about kissing Holly makes me feel like the little boy with no idea what to do with his teeth. "No, I'm sorry," Holly says, rising to her feet. "It's late. We're too tired for this. Let's get some sleep and try again tomorrow." Now I'm glad we tried to go for the practice run. The last thing I want is a video of us kissing where it probably looks like Holly is trying to make out with a donkey. Actually, that's offensive to donkeys. I'm 99% certain they kiss better than I just did. After Holly leaves and I turn out the lights, I stretch out with my arm above my head and stare at the shadows on the ceiling. Even though the sun will rise in a few hours, the street is still busy with traffic. That's life in New York, and tonight I'm glad for the distraction. I spend so much time staring at the ceiling and listening to the taxicabs honking their horns that it seems like I blinked and the room was suddenly filled with morning sunshine. I blink again and Holly is standing over me with a plate of steaming waffles. The sickly sweet aroma of maple syrup makes my stomach ache, but it's my head that demands the most attention. It throbs with anger as I sit up. "I hope you slept okay," Holly says. I want to laugh. I blinked twice and hours passed by each time. I'm wrecked, but the plate of food on my lap has me smiling anyway. "I was thinking about our dare," Holly says, twisting her hair as she perches on the edge of the coffee table. I make a humming sound between bites and shovel the waffles in my mouth. Holly pauses to watch with an amused expression on her face. "What do you think about going in the hot tub?" "That would be steamy," I remark with a wink. Holly drops her hand. "Too steamy?" she asks. I smirk. I was referring to all the steam coming from the tub. Holly throws her head back and laughs heartily. Hands down, she has the loudest, most delightful laugh in the entire world. Oddly, it doesn't hurt my head either. "I like the idea," I say. "I'm going to take a shower." Holly points at me with a grin as I get up. "That would be steamy too." She's being witty. I get it. But the joke conjures up an image in my mind that is anything but funny. The expression on my face must have given my thoughts away because Holly's grin turns into a look of mortification. "Forget I said that," she says quickly. I chuckle as I leave the room, and I don't think I'll be doing any forgetting. The idea of kissing Holly drove me into a frenzy, but the idea of kissing her in the shower is driving me wild. Chapter 5. Holly. That was a bad first kiss. A terrible kiss. The worst, most awkward kiss of my life. And yet, I can't wait to try again. For the first time, Cameron acted nervous around me. His cheeks turned beet red, he stumbled over his words, and he was trembling as we kissed. Or tried to kiss anyway. I know for a fact Cameron James is an epic kisser. The girls at high school gossiped about it. So there's only one reason why he completely failed to sweep me off my feet. Nerves. Our first kiss may not have lived up to my expectations, but it broke the ice. Now my jitters are gone, and Cameron is no longer on the pedestal I placed him. He's the same Cameron I've hung out with all these years. Yes, he's smart and caring and funny. We banter with each other and get on like a house on fire. But most importantly, he's normal. There's no need to fangirl. I barely have time to think about these matters, though. One pressing decision must be addressed. Bikini or bathing suit? I stare at the leopard print bathing suit lying on my bed next to a black bikini. The bikini would be sexy, really showing Cameron the woman I've grown into. If there are any illusions that I'm still that high school girl, they'd be shattered in an instant. But my stomach is bloated after eating all that Italian food last night. The leopard print is cute with a low neckline, not too low to show off too much cleavage, but just enough so I don't look like a 9-year-old girl. The problem with the leopard print suit is I've had it for years. The color is faded and I should have thrown it out ages ago. Decisions, decisions. I hum to myself, looking between the two outfits when a knock on my bedroom door makes me jump. I'm getting into the hot tub now. Cameron's muffled voice calls through the door. I gulp. Great, I'll be right there. And just like that, the writhing snakes are back, squirming around, churning Katya's lasagna in my stomach. I grab the leopard print bathing suit, get changed in a rush, and scoop my hair back into a high ponytail. After a quick touch-up of lip gloss in front of my wall mirror, I take a deep breath and nod at my reflection. It's showtime. I wrap my towel around me, clutching a fistful of it in one hand and my phone in the other as I step outside. There's nothing but a tuft of dark hair peeking over the edge of the bubbling hot tub, and the corners of my lips tug upward as I approach the hot tub. A gazebo covers the tub, fitted with a string of fairy lights, but it's not dark enough to turn them on yet. A twig snaps underneath my foot, prompting Cameron to swivel around and look at me. It takes every ounce of my self-control not to wince as I stoop down and pluck the stick from my skin. Hey, I say, trying to sound breezy as I glance at my foot to check for bleeding. Thankfully, there isn't any. Why are you hiding? I look up to meet Cameron's stare, heat rising to my face. What? His eyes lower from my face. Haven't you had that giraffe towel since like the 7th grade? I feel myself blushing fully now. In my excitement, I grabbed the first towel in my cupboard, not paying attention to which one I picked. I shrug. I like this towel. It's true. But now I'm starting to think I need to go to the mall and upgrade my wardrobe. I've never been a mall girl, always choosing comfort over fashion. Cameron knows that, and he rolls his eyes with a shake of his head. Whatever. Are you coming in? Yes, scoot over. I slide into the hot tub, doing my best to keep my footing. Cameron has it on the most intense setting, and the jets bombard my body like 20 gnomes beating a punching bag. Once under the water, though, the sensation is no longer irritating, and the heat washes over me, relaxing my muscles with immediate effect. We should have come out here last night, I say, resting my head on the edge of the tub and closing my eyes. A low rumbling hum prompts me to blink and look at Cameron. His muscular shoulders are peeping out from the foaming water, and he's grinning at me like a Cheshire cat. Nice to see you acting more normal. I frown, but he's right. It's not until now, with my tension melting away from every inch of my body, that I realize just how uptight I've been. What's got you so stressed out anyway? Cameron asks, following my thoughts. I puff air from my cheeks and shut my eyes again. Oddly enough, if I don't look at him, I feel more courage to be honest. This dare thing, I was so excited about it, but now I'm just... You know what? Cameron begins. I snap my eyes open and see him leaning forward. His hands find mine beneath the water, and he gives me a hard look. We're not in college anymore. Backing out of a dare isn't the end of the world.
He squeezes my hand, but I can't help but frown even deeper. If I backed out of my one chance to break down the friendship barriers with Cameron, it will be the end of the world, or my world at least. He's had girlfriends through college. I dated around too. We're finally both single, back in the same city, and setting up our adult lives. Pretty soon, one of us will end up in a serious relationship. And once that happens, we will never be together. I picture a tall, athletic blonde on his arm, stroking his chest and flicking back her hair with a giggle at one of his jokes. We're at a party, and a shiny ring is sitting on her wedding ring finger. The image lights a fire in my stomach, and all of my thoughts evaporate. No more thinking. No more nerves. I tug on his hands and lean over the steam to meet his lips. Maybe the heat is getting to my head. Everything is fuzzy. I drag my hands through his damp hair and press my lips on his, testing the proverbial waters. He responds. His nose nuzzles my cheek, and he sucks on my bottom lip in a way that makes me want to scream. He grips the back of my neck, and the two of us moan in unison. No teeth clashing, no fumbling. This kiss is steamy. The bubbles lick at our heated bodies as we lose ourselves in the moment. I'm beginning to wonder if I've actually done it, if those walls have come crashing down when I lose my footing and crash into the bottom of the hot tub. The jets blast my face, pushing me back to the surface as a pair of strong hands lift me by my arms. Are you okay? Cameron's worried face comes into view, and I blink water out of my eyes. I'm fine, I splutter. I want to say, where were we? And get back to kissing, but Cameron lets go of me and backs away, settling on the other side of the tub again. He rubs his mouth with the back of his hand, and I can't decide if he's disgusted or just deep in thought. Everything okay? I ask, my stomach nodding. Cameron's face breaks into a smile and he looks at me again. Fine. We both forgot to set up the camera. My face falls. If that's his first thought after that kiss, then I'm not out of the friend zone. What the heck is it going to take to get out? What is this friendship box made of? Iron steel? If I want Cameron to be mine, it's going to take more than one short, steamy kiss. Chapter 6, Cameron. There are a million reasons why I shouldn't be with Holly. Her rich parents expect her to be with someone established, successful, and most importantly, rich. In addition to that, she wants to travel the world, shooting movies, walking on red carpets and telling funny stories on late-night TV shows. I want to stay in the city, teaching kids how to use acting to build their confidence the way I did when I was in school. I've spent so many years pretending. I don't even know who the real Cameron is. During the whole of middle school, I was the kid with the stutter. The other kids laughed at me, so I avoided any opportunity to speak or stand in the spotlight. Drawing attention put me in the firing line for more ridicule. Then I met my first love, drama. I found it when my older brother starred in an amateur production of Macbeth at the local theater. At home, Howie was an introverted dweeb, moody and seriously lacking in vocabulary. But in Macbeth, he was bold, loud, and delivered those complex lines like a true Shakespearean actor. His transformation impressed me, so I tried it out too. When I stepped on the stage for the first time, all I could see was blinding light. Everyone in the audience disappeared. It was amazing. I felt free. If it wasn't for drama, I never would have worked out how to be cool. I created this persona with the help of John Travolta's movies and just ran with it. I acted cool and chilled out,
even though beneath the surface, I was a bundle of nerves. Then I met Holly, this vibrant, bubbly blonde who laughs heartily at toilet jokes and chows down a hamburger without commenting on her waistline. She has confidence seeping out of her pores. She is a star that lights up my whole life. I had a crush on her throughout high school, and the summer before we started college, I almost asked her out. Almost. Michelle's experiment. Does she think we'd kiss and then put everything aside and get together? Life isn't that simple. But the taste of her berry lip gloss is still on my tongue, and I'm pretty sure I can still feel the press of her pouty lips against mine. She's looking at me now, with a deep frown, and there's a little line forming between her brows. She looks at me like that when I'm in trouble, like the time I ate the last donut at Michelle's party. Right now, I can't work out what I've done wrong. Right, I say, standing up with a splash. I'll set everything up. I go to my phone, but Holly grabs my arm and points to her sopping wet hair and the trails of mascara running down her face. I can't do this looking like a drowned rat. She doesn't look like a drowned rat. Not with her button nose and pinchable cheeks. Rats have pointy features. Still, she's right. I force a laugh. Here, let me help you. I thrust my hand in the water and shower her face. Are you kidding me right now? Holly gargles, rubbing her eyes. She pulls her hands away from her face and blinks at me. Hey, you haven't got black stuff on your cheeks anymore, I point out. Holly huffs and rubs off the last of the smudged makeup around her eyes. Seeing her all disgruntled and dripping wet grips my heart. I edge closer, licking my lips, and I can't help looking at hers. I'm jealous of the water droplets clinging to her bottom lip, making it glisten like something out of a cartoon. Her big eyes go wide as I settle next to her. What are you doing? She blurts. My jaw clenches at her response. But she's so adorable. It pulls me in like a moth to the flame. There are a million reasons why I shouldn't kiss Holly. And yet right now, I can't think of a single one. Instead, I cup the back of her neck and make the move. She starts, her lips rigid. But then she melts like butter underneath my feathery touch. I brush my lips over hers, closing my eyes to magnify the sensations. She drapes her hands over my shoulders and kisses me back. Kissing Holly lights up a fire inside of me. She's like an addiction. The more I taste, the more I want. There will never be a time when it feels natural to stop. I lift her up and pull her onto my lap, then I wrap my arms around her body and squeeze her like she's my very own teddy bear. I want to snuggle her, kiss her, swing her around in my arms, and squeeze every part of her to check she's real, and this isn't a dream. She tears her mouth from mine, and her face is flaming red. I should get changed. Meet me in the living room? Then she leaps out of the tub like a cat, but not fast enough for me to miss the fuzzy patch on the bathing suit over her butt. She wraps herself in the old giraffe towel and practically gallops along the path back to the house. Bewildered by her response, I drag a hand through my hair and grin like a fool. If I wasn't sure about my real feelings before, they've become inexplicably clear now. I don't just like Holly. I crave her in a way I never thought possible. Chapter 7. Holly. It takes 30 minutes in a hot shower for my breathing to return to normal. I finally stumble out, my skin red and blotchy and ears ringing as I try to process what happened in the hot tub. Cameron came on to me. He kissed me. The heat of his stare burns in my memory, and every atom in my body is having a party. I dry off my hair, keeping my eyes closed, and replaying every second in my head. He knew the camera hadn't been set up, so what he did wasn't an act, unless he was just warming up for the real thing. Cameron likes method acting, but surely his racing pulse thumping against my forearms couldn't have been fake. And how can he make his baby blues so dark with desire? Not to mention the way he held me like I was the most precious thing in the world. I squeal with excitement, hoping the screeching hairdryer drowns out the sound. Cameron James kissed me. And we have to do it again, at least once for the dare. This day just might be the best day of my life. As if she picked up on my excitement via radio frequency or something, Katya calls me. "How's it going?" she asks. I know she's trying to sound nonchalant, but her words come out too fast to fool me. "It's been, I say, struggling to string a line of words together. "Have you recorded the kiss yet?" Katya asks, pressing for more details. I hum to myself, "Not exactly." "Uh-oh, still haven't summoned the courage to kiss him yet?" Katya asks, sounding worried. I grin and brush my tingling lips with my fingertips. Oh no, that's not been the problem. Katya gasps, then a loud whisper pricks up my ears. "What is it? What did she say?" "Is that Michelle?" I ask. Even in a whisper, I can recognize that voice anywhere. "Yeah, she's here," Katya says. Michelle demands to know more, so I take a deep breath and spill. I tell them everything, from the awkward teeth knocker moment just before we went to bed to falling head first into the tub during our steamy kiss. And he knew the camera wasn't set up. But he came over and kissed me again anyway. I finish. Katya and Michelle hum in unison. "Interesting. Very interesting," Katya adds. I roll my eyes, picking up the smile in their voices. It's not like me to overanalyze every little thing. That's Michelle's quirk. But with Cameron, I can't help it. First, I think he's just focused on getting the dare finished. I mean, he backed off after our first smooch in the hot tub. But then he came back. Why? This hot-cold behavior is making me dizzy. "Well, Jonah said Cameron talks about you in his sleep. Always has," Michelle says. My breath hitches at the revelation. Jonah and Cameron were roommates in college and now share an apartment on the east side of the city. "What does he say?" I ask, my curiosity piqued. "Jonah isn't the type of guy to offer specifics," Michelle quips back. I look at the ceiling with a huff. It's true. I'm amazed Michelle even got that sliver of information from Jonah. Is it a surprise I've always been on Cameron's mind? I guess not. We're close. Maybe he just dreams about me doing something dumb, like falling over or eating too many corn dogs at a baseball game. Or maybe he secretly feels the same way about me. Maybe he longs for us to be something more than the platonic thing we've got going on. I snort at the thought. Well, there's nothing platonic about kissing Cameron. What if this dare changes things between us, and there's no going back? I worry aloud. "That's kind of the idea, right?" Michelle says, echoing my thoughts from last night. I look at the phone in my hand, chewing my lip. Recording a kiss is fun. I was 100% committed and focused on that part of the dare. But I'm only just coming around to the part about putting our kiss online. Girls, what happens after we upload the video to the internet? My mind conjures up pictures of my folks hitting play and the barrage of questions that will follow. Are you dating Cameron? Are you two getting married? Should we call his parents? My folks like Cameron and they know his parents. But will that stop my dad from wanting to rip his throat out when he sees a video of him giving me mouth to mouth for the whole world to see? Unlikely. There will be consequences to this dare, Michelle says, and my thoughts shatter like glass. But the idea of these challenges is to push us all out of our comfort zone and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Wait, are you counting on all of us choosing a dare? Katya cuts in. Come on, nobody picks truth, Michelle scoffs. I smile at my phone, listening to my two besties bickering with each other. Then why bother even calling it truth or dare? Why not just give us all challenges? Because where's the fun in that? Besides, remember all those summer nights playing truth or dare in high school? Now we're all back from college. I thought it would be fun to recapture the good old days. Honestly, I don't think any of us want to relive those days. A soft knock on the door interrupts the call, and I look up. Hey, Holly, did you fall asleep? You've been in there for hours, Cameron says, his voice muffled. I end the call quickly, jump to my feet, and look around the darkened room, only just noticing that it's now nighttime. I throw the door open, and Cameron is leaning against the door frame with a smile on his face. Sorry, I blurt. I was on the phone. Cameron stands upright and crosses his arms across his broad chest. Ah, is Michelle checking up on us? I can't help smiling back. My stomach lets out a rumble. Are you hungry? I ask. Breakfast feels like days ago. Cameron points at me with a grin. Way ahead of you. I ordered Chinese. The two of us sit on the couch with the TV on, eating our Chinese food. I didn't realize I was starving, I say, leaning back after I devoured every last bit of my chow mein. The spices warm my soul, and I close my eyes. That's what I love about you, Cameron says, and my eyes fly open. I catch the look of mild horror on his face before he settles back into a casual smirk. It's not the first time he told me he loves me, but now we've kissed. It takes on a much less platonic meaning. Go on, I press. He shuffles away from me and places his empty pot on the coffee table. Well, he says, wiping his mouth, you're not like a normal girl. I raise a brow at him, unimpressed by the vague sentiment. Girl? I say, exchanging my empty Chinese box for a drink. Just how long does it take for a girl to be recognized as a woman these days? When she's 35? Or maybe not until she's picking up her first pension check. Cameron smirks at me like I broadcasted my thoughts across the room. You'll always be that girl in drama class to me. And just like that, my irritation dissolves. I smile back. We sit in silence, and Cameron doesn't elaborate on his point. But I don't care. We sit goo-goo-eyed next to each other, totally at ease in each other's company. Then our phones vibrate in unison. We both reach for them on the coffee table. Ah, it's from Michelle, Cameron says. I gulp as I look down at my phone to read the text. You've got 1 hour to post a sizzling makeout video online. Forfeit the dare and suffer the consequences. M. Chapter 8. Cameron. They say time flies when you're having fun, but how did we get here so fast? We have less than an hour before our deadline. I thought this dare would be simple. Set up the camera, make out with my best friend, upload to the internet, and done. I also thought that kissing Holly would help remind me that what we have is completely platonic. That our kisses would be like most of the others I'd done on stage, sterile, mechanical. But the more I think about it, the hungrier I am to take Holly in my arms and kiss her until we both run out of breath. Maybe even longer if that's possible. I'm gonna go clean up, Holly says. I clear up the empty containers from the coffee table and prop my phone up on a stack of books. Holly returns just as I've completed setting up the scene. You open the curtains? She asks with her perfectly shaped brows arched. I take a moment to admire the soft waves of her golden hair falling past her shoulders. I love the way her hair reflects the light and the delicate way her chest rises and falls with every breath. Oh, I stop my staring and turn to look at the dark window instead. You can see the city lights. I thought that would make a great backdrop. I look back just in time to catch Holly's eyes roll. She doesn't need to speak. I know what she's thinking. Typical Cameron, always gotta have the perfect stage. I hold out my hand and gesture for her to come over. Her nose wrinkles as she giggles and joins me on the couch. Then she glances at my phone leaning against the pile of books and throws her head back with a laugh. That looks so professional, she teases, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Do you have a tripod? I ask. Holly shakes her head. I should have asked Michelle to leave hers. She slides onto the couch next to me, and her thigh brushes against mine. The light touch obliterates any concerns about the camera setup and ignites a fire in my chest. So, how long are we going to do this? We never worked out what qualifies a makeout. I shake my head at Holly's overthinking. I tell you what, whenever you feel like stopping, stop, I say. I'm trying to sound confident, but there's a slight tremor in my voice. Holly appears not to notice, though, and her stare turns vacant. I don't think I'll ever want to stop kissing you, she says. Her words are as soft as a summer breeze, but they land on my ears like a hurricane. Neither do I blurt, my face burning as I grin at her. Holly looks at me like a president just declared world peace. Are you for real? She grasps my hand and bounces on the couch with a squeal. What does this mean? We've been best friends for, well, ages, Holly says, her eyes misty. Well, yeah, I reply. Right now, the blood has drained from my head and I can't find words to form a sentence. Okay, let's get this over with and then we need to talk, Holly says. She lets go of my hands to look at my phone, and I feel like a vacuum has sucked all of the oxygen from my body. Suddenly, it seems as though holding Holly's hands is my only form of life support. Right, there's loads of battery power. I'm pressing record in 3, 2, 1. Holly returns to the couch, and I grasp her hands like I'm drowning and she's a life jacket. She stops smiling at the urgency of the move, or maybe it's the intense look in my eyes that throw her off guard. She probably thinks I'm worried about finishing the dare in time. But I don't care about what Michelle will try to make us do if we're unsuccessful. I care about Holly. I want to show her that she's my favorite person in the entire world. Holly's cheeks dimple and grow pink as we edge closer. She sneaks a glance at my phone, but we could be live on TV with the whole world watching us, and it wouldn't matter to me. I reach for the back of her neck and graze my thumb over her cheekbone to stop her from turning to the phone again. I lean into her ear and whisper, "Stop thinking." Holly nods a little. I weave my fingers through her hair and pull her into me. It feels like I have wanted to kiss Holly, and I mean really kiss her for so long. I can't remember not wanting to. Flashbacks cross my mind. Some of them are fantasy, some of them are real. Seeing her giggling with her friends on the field, slow dancing with Ben Knowles at our prom, her hair swept up, the elegant curve of her neck visible. The summer she introduced me to Matt, her boyfriend from college. I wanted to send that guy off to the moon for just holding her hand. A moan brings me out of my thoughts. I'm not sure if it's from me or Holly. But then she bites gently on my bottom lip and we moan together. Her gorgeous floral scent washes over my soul, and I bask in it, caressing her shoulder. We break apart to catch our breath. I cradle her face and nuzzle her nose with mine, pecking her on the cheek. Recovered, Holly reclaims my lips with hers. We keep it sweet and tender, savoring this moment. Every brush of our lips or tickle of her minty breath on my cheeks makes my heart swell. Michelle designed this dare to be scandalous, but nothing about it feels wrong. At work, I'm Mr. James, the drama teacher. To my parents, I'm the 2-year-old boy who was obsessed with the Hulk. But with Holly, I'm just me. All of me. I'm the good, the bad, and everything in between. I wrap my arms around her waist, never wanting to let her go again. Right here, right now, she is mine. All mine. And I make a promise that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I never lose her again. Chapter 9. Holly. I never want this to end. Who knows how long we've been kissing, but there's no sign that either of us wants to slow down. Cameron lifts me up onto his lap, and we can't decide whether to just hold each other, softly pecking each other's lips, or lose ourselves in a deeper kiss. We keep alternating between the two. Finally, our lungs scream for air, so we slow down and keep our clammy foreheads together, eyes closed. We've both forgotten about the dare, and the camera is still precariously balanced atop Great Expectations, the perfect book for this moment. I did come into this with great expectations, but Cameron's response has blown them out of the water. We've definitely crossed the friendship zone and are now treading on entirely new territory. The problem is, it's totally a one-way trip. If I mess this up or if he changes his mind, there's no going back to being just friends. We can't. Cameron's light stubble grazes delightfully across my skin, and the press of his lips leaves a trail of heat as he kisses me from cheek to cheek, stopping briefly on the way to kiss my lips. I expected a steamy kiss with all of my senses on fire. I expected Cameron to profess his undying love and devotion to me. Okay, maybe my fantasies also involved a marriage proposal too? But this is so much more than love or lust. It's something else entirely. I feel like I've finally come home, that the world was off kilter and has now been put back on its proper axis. With my eyes still closed, I drag my hands over his firm biceps, squeezing his shoulders before tracing lines up his neck. A vein pulses underneath my fingertip, just below his jaw, and Cameron moans in a way that makes me weak in the knees, literally. I wobble side to side, struggling to stay balanced on his lap, so Cameron picks me up and settles me back on the couch. The room is now a furnace. My cheeks feel flaming hot as Cameron tries to smooth my frizzing hair. It's a doomed mission, though. Drops of sweat are clinging to my temples and sizzling on the heat of my skin. Pretty soon, I'm gonna look like Albert Einstein. But who cares? Cameron is still kissing me in a way I could never have imagined. It's as if our minds have connected, and I'm feeling all of his emotions. Tenderness, trust, vulnerability, true devotion. We press our heads together again, eyes still closed, panting. And for a few moments, we just stay like that, holding each other. To anyone watching this, it must look like we're saying a prayer. It's probably not the hot and sizzling makeout session Michelle is expecting, but this tender moment is so intimate it surpasses any makeout. I think that's enough, Cameron whispers. His words shatter my happy meditation. I blink at him as he leans back, breaking our connection. What's wrong? I ask, watching him pick up his phone. He glances up at me and I see that his face is red and blotchy. We've only got 15 minutes to upload this, he says, waving the phone at me. Right, I say, remembering the reason why we're doing this. Cameron joins me on the couch again, tapping on his phone. Do you want to watch it back first? He asks. The idea has my stomach doing flips. All I can do is nod and Cameron presses play. While we were kissing, I imagined the most beautiful Hollywood scene in my head. Two gorgeous lovers kissing as the camera pans around them to the sound of a symphony of heart-stirring music. In reality, the camera is too low and angled up. The result is a view of us in the most unflattering position ever. After I move on to Cameron's lap, the rest of the video is a view of my back with the sound of us moaning and what can only be described as lip smacking. It's gross. I look away from the video to glance at Cameron with horror. He matches my expression for a moment. Then we both burst out laughing. We can't upload that, I say, tears rolling down my cheeks. Cameron shakes his head. You're right, we can't. Our phones buzz at the same time. That'll be Michelle again. Cameron angles his phone to me to confirm my suspicion. 10 minutes! M. We look at each other. What do you want to do? I ask. The corner of Cameron's mouth rises, dimpling his left cheek as he looks at me with a twinkle in his eye. We can try again, or... Or what? I ask, wondering what plan he's concocting. Cameron laughs to himself, then throws his phone onto the chair across the room and reclines on the couch. Come here, he says, lifting my legs to rest over his. I lean back and Cameron rubs my foot with his strong hands. If I have any tension left in my body, it melts away under his touch. Forget about it, he says softly. I prop my head up on a cushion and take a deep breath, then exhale. Cameron starts rubbing my other foot. What about Michelle? I ask, but I'm not sure I even care about Michelle and her dare right now. She'll get over it. The two of us sit in silence as Cameron rubs my feet. I feel so light and relaxed. I might start floating any minute now. Holly? Is all I can say. I'm in seventh heaven. Truth or dare? I smile at the question, keeping my eyes closed. Truth. From now on, it's always truth. Cameron chuckles and squeezes my calf. Do you want to be with me? I open my eyes and sit up, staring at Cameron. I'm surprised at the uncertainty in his voice. What does he think this is, a fling? A no-strings-attached date? Just what will it take to convince him that my feelings are not superficial? You want the truth? I put my legs down and scoot over to him. Well, here it is. I suck in the air between my teeth and hold my breath for a second, building the courage. I need to do this. Cameron James, I've had a crush on you since high school. I've loved our friendship, but I've always wanted more. Seeing you with other girls, kissing other girls, I hated it. You were mine, at least in my head. I avert my eyes and blush, but Cameron rests a finger under my chin and lifts my head to meet his gaze again. You're right, he says in a voice so low it rumbles against my eardrums. I am yours. I always have been. My breath hitches and it takes all of my resolve not to squeal with excitement. This can't be real. How have we made it all these years without having this kind of talk? I dated guys to make Cameron jealous. I wanted to make a move on him, but I was always so worried that he didn't see me that way. Was he doing the same this whole time? Cameron picks up my hands and plants feathery kisses over my knuckles. I know your parents want you to be with a lawyer.
I clench my jaw. My parents? He's worried about what my parents will think? All they've ever wanted is for me to be happy, I say, squeezing his hands. And I'm happiest when I'm with you. They know that. My parents love Cameron almost as much as I do. Once they know I'm in love with him, I'm sure, and I don't want to hold you back from your dreams, Cameron continues, breaking into my thoughts. I frown at him. Why would you be holding me back? So this is why Cameron hasn't made a move all these years. I want you to achieve everything you've ever dreamed of, but I'm happy here in New York, Cameron says, rubbing the back of his neck. My frown deepens. So am I say, but Cameron gives me a wry look as if he doesn't believe me. I'm serious, I say, starting to get annoyed. How can he just decide he's not good enough? Don't I get a say in this? Cameron, I want to be with you. I want to make a life with you, I say. I hold his face between my hands and look him firmly in the eye, just in case he thinks I'm not being honest. I refuse to blink, daring him to argue with me. But his troubled expression vanishes into a grin. Okay, then I guess there's only one thing left to do, he says, propping me up on his lap again. What? Seal it with a kiss? Cameron asks. Just like that, we're both laughing and all of my irritation has faded away. Then I move in for the sweetest kiss of all. I love you, Holly, he whispers against my lips. Even though we failed to complete the dare and now we've got to go skinny dipping in the freezing Hudson River, it was worth it. I succeeded in the most important challenge of all. I got out of the friend zone with Cameron, and that's all I need for my happy ending. The end. Dare number 3, Pretend to be Mine. Katya and Ryder's story. Chapter 1, Katya. Memories flood my mind as I sit in the old coffee shop a few blocks from Chinatown. New York City has been my home ever since my parents brought my twin sister and me over from Italy. That was before we could talk, so even though we're not native, we both feel like true New Yorkers. I took my usual seat by the window so I could watch people passing by. Debbie says it's weird and stalker-like to watch people, but I find it relaxing. A young couple walks past, hand in hand, their faces flushed as they laugh at each other. They're oblivious to the world around them, much less people like me. I cradle my cup of coffee and wince at the twinge of jealousy I feel in my chest. Behind them, an elderly woman is dragging a grocery cart. She's braced against the cold air. Storm Sally is due to roll in later this week. I just hope she can hold off until after the wedding. I still can't believe my sister is getting married, to her enemy Mark, no less. For years, she had me convinced she hated the guy. But since the two of them got locked in a basement for the night, she's become a completely different person. On the bright side, the change has been a good thing. Debbie loves her creature comforts and hates attention being directed at her. But with Mark, she's got bundles of confidence and seems up for anything. Anything except a traditional wedding, much to her parents' annoyance. Seeing as all the good venues are booked, Mark thought it would be fun to go to Atlantic City. And considering their 5-week-long engagement, I don't think we have a choice. The time we have is barely enough to make the rest of the preparations. So our dad won't be walking Debbie down the aisle of a Catholic church, but as I pointed out to him on the phone, it could be worse. At least the wedding isn't in Vegas, where an Elvis priest would have blessed their marriage. Although it won't surprise me if we turn up at Atlantic City and find out they have Elvis impersonators there too. Anyway, they're keeping it pretty small, just family and the group, Holly and Cameron, Michelle and Jonah, and me and Ryder. I wonder, was the realization that everyone else had coupled up
What made Debbie scheme with Michelle over my dare? Most likely. Getting Ryder and me to pretend we're engaged will stop either of us from bringing another +1. Maybe this dare is a matter of convenience. Besides, there is no way Mark wouldn't want Ryder at the wedding, seeing as he's the best man. And if we turn up as a couple, it might stop my dad from throwing him death stares. On the other hand, my dad is still furious at Ryder for breaking my heart, and there's really no way around that. So maybe seeing Ryder and me together will provoke a violent reaction. The way I see it, it can go either way. The door opens with a jingle and I look up sharply. Ryder flashes me a quick smile, then turns to the counter. Now his back is turned, I take the opportunity to check him out. His hairline makes the shape of a V. I used to twirl that tuft of hair around my index finger as we sat together in biology. Sometimes, when the teacher was busy scribing on the board, I'd get away with resting my head on his shoulder, too. The smell of his sandalwood aftershave would flood my nostrils and give me flutters. No, I can't think about that. Those days are long gone, and reliving them is too painful. I tear my gaze away, take my jacket off the chair next to me, and stuff it under the table. I look up to see him approaching. The sight of a cup in his hands makes me smile. Don't tell me, double mocha latte? The corner of his mouth twitches and his eyes twinkle at me. You got it. Ryder and I sit across from each other and sit in silence for a few moments. I glance out of the window again, this time watching the man playing guitar on the street. Streams of people walk by, paying no attention to him. Which is a crime, really. He's good. It's been a long time since we've sat in here, Ryder says mildly. I turn away from the street and let my gaze settle on him again. He lifts his steaming mug to his lips and looks at me as he drinks. His eyes lock me in place, and I can't even bring myself to blink. Yes, I say, a little breathless. You remember? Ryder sets the mug down and offers a casual smirk. Then his thick brows cock upward. We used to cut classes every Friday afternoon, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe we used to make out on that couch. He jabs his thumb to the old leather couch in the corner. I tingle all over as I look at it, vacant and haunted by the memories of my past. I turn around in my chair, covering up my blush with a hand and a fake yawn. I thought you might have forgotten. Forgotten? Come on, Ryder says, smirking again. The heat of his gaze is like sitting under a spotlight. Sweat gathers above my upper lip and I swipe it away with the back of my hand before dropping it in my lap. It's been almost 2 years since college ended. I came back to the city first, while Ryder went traveling around Europe. His parents moved from London to New York when he was in his freshman year of high school, so he always had a bit of a British accent. But after he came back from Europe, his accent has been on a whole other level of sexy. 6 months. That's how long he's been back in the city. And apart from a few parties with our friends, the two of us have barely seen each other, and we definitely haven't talked. Until now. All it takes is a glint in his eye, and all the memories and feelings come rushing back like no time has passed at all. I clutch my cup a little too hard in a desperate attempt to stop them from trembling. I'm guessing you didn't bring me here to reminisce over old times. Ryder takes a casual sip of his drink, but averts his eyes for a moment. His question is like a shot of adrenaline, and it bolts straight to my heart. Can nerves kill? If so, I'm a goner. You're right, I say, putting down the cup. I want to talk about the dare. Chapter 2. Ryder. Katya is adorable when she's nervous. Even though she tries to cover it up, I know all of her tells, which is why she stopped playing poker with me. She's got 2. 1, she blinks more than usual, making her thick lashes flutter. And 2, she fidgets. She's squirming in her seat now, and my cheeks prickle as I let a smile take over my face. What dare? I say mildly. Her eyes darken and she stops moving to give me the biggest frown ever. But her reaction just makes my smile grow wider. I'm teasing her, of course. I know exactly what dare she's talking about. The dare. The one Michelle dumped on us without any warning at Mark's bachelor party. Pretend to be mine. As if it's not going to be awkward enough being the best man to the guy who's marrying my ex's twin sister. I have to pose as my ex's fiancé, too. But the way I see it, I don't have a choice. There's no way I'm taking the forfeit. Jumping fully clothed into the Hudson this close to Thanksgiving is a death wish. And for the forfeit, you have to be naked. No, thank you. Katya squirms in her seat again and splutters a few inaudible words before she takes a sip of her drink. Then I realize I've been brooding and my silence is torturing her. Good. I love to see her like this, cheeks flushed, chewing on her bottom lip, but I figure I should say something and put her out of her misery. Relax, I'm joking. Katya puffs air out of her cheeks and fakes a laugh, but her little display does nothing to hide the quick eye roll. I need to behave if she's going to tolerate being around me during the wedding. The truth is, things have been awkward between us since the breakup. We were sat on the kissing couch, the one sitting just a few feet behind Katya. I glance at it now and my smile cracks at the memory of that day. I had put Katya and all of my memories of her in a box. Mentally, of course. Sometimes the box would crack open by a hair's breadth and a flashback would sneak out. After a jab to the gut, I'd mentally shove it back inside and fasten thick leather straps around it. Now the box is made of iron steel. There's a combination lock on it and it's guarded by the most terrifying person my imagination could conjure up. Her father. I wanted to make sure you were okay with this. Katya's voice shatters my mental image of her father scowling at me, his black mustache twitching. I'm fine, why wouldn't I be? I say. The words come out like a succession of squeaks. This time, Katya looks at me like she's not fooled. Look, it's Debbie and Mark's day. Everyone is going to be so focused on them, we won't need to do anything out of the ordinary, I say. I lowered my voice, but now it's too low to sound normal. For goodness sake, what's wrong with me? I take another sip of my coffee as if a shot of caffeine is going to calm my already racing heart. Katya flicks back her long hair. The sunshine pouring in through the windows kisses her right on her collarbone. My lips have brushed her there before. The thought does something funny to my stomach. No, stop thinking about it. I force myself to look up and meet her stare in an attempt to clear my head. She nods as if I've just imparted wisdom. But in all honesty, I'm not even sure what's coming out of my mouth. I could be speaking gibberish for all I know. Seeing Katya here, dressed in a silk blouse and a pencil skirt, is distracting. Her hands are resting on the table. I cradle my cup in a bid to stop my hands from reaching for hers. I've heard of muscle memory before. Is that what this is? Sitting so far away from her feels weird and unnatural. We need to decide on a story, to tell people when they ask. I blink several times, taking in her words. Ask what? I blurt, drawing a blank. Katya shakes her head with a laugh, a real one this time. It makes her nose wrinkle. How we got back together, silly. My heart simultaneously sinks and squeezes. Chapter 3, Katya. Atlantic City, here we come! Debbie shouts out of the open window as we drive away from my apartment. I grind my teeth and grip the steering wheel until the whites of my knuckles show. The memory of my conversation with Ryder on repeat in my head. Debbie's twin radar picks up on my lack of enthusiasm. You're quiet. What's wrong? She asks. Nothing. I hate driving on the freeway. That's not it. Have you spoken to Ryder yet? I don't get it, Deb. It's your wedding. Why do you want Ryder and I to parade around like we're in love when the day is all about you and Mark? Debbie sighs with an overly exaggerated eye roll. We've been over this already, Kat. It's true. Debbie wants as little attention on her as possible. The fact that they didn't book a fancy venue to invite hundreds of guests was all her doing. If she had it her way, they would have been married already, in secret, at a registry office. But our dad would never forgive her. Mom might be okay with it, though. If she was any more laid back, she'd be lying down. I don't get you two. What? I side-glanced my sister with a frown, then focused back on the road. Ryder and you, Debbie says, as if those 3 words clear everything up. They don't. I still have no idea what she's talking about. Then Debbie huffs. You two were so close during high school. Now you're both single, living in the same city, and the sexual tension between you is off the charts. My cheeks burn as I wonder whether to argue or not. Is the tension between us so palpable that other people can sense it? But then I get hit by a flashback of the stone-cold expression on Ryder's face just before he left for college. No warning, no hugs, not even a final kiss. The way he dropped me broke my heart into a million pieces. My first 2 semesters sucked because of him. In fact, looking back, it's all just a haze of ice cream and crying into my pillow. Be serious, do you really want me to get back with Ryder? Kat, of all of us, you and Ryder were the obvious match. You two belong together. I swallow against the lump of emotion collecting in my throat. If I think about Ryder much longer, my eyes will grow misty and it'll be a struggle to see the road. Okay, so what time is the flight coming in? I say, switching the subject. Oh, please no, Debbie whispers. There's a mass of people gathered outside the lobby, but in the darkness of the night, I can't make out any faces. What's wrong? I ask. Then the headlights illuminate the crowd, and my stomach starts doing standing backflips. When Dad said he was bringing the family over from Italy, I didn't know he meant the whole family. Debbie pats my leg a little too hard and shouts, "Just drive!" Like we're in a heist movie and I'm the getaway driver. I do as I'm told and keep moving forward until we go around the corner. Debbie's aura turns panicked and her nervous energy starts to give me jitters. I turn off the ignition and stare at her, stunned. No, 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 this isn't happening, she moans into her hands. This was supposed to be a small wedding. She looks behind us, peeping through her fingers. Do you think anyone saw us? I shrug, chewing my lip. Deb, I can't go through with this dare. Debbie's hands drop and she looks at me as if I've just given her a death sentence. You have to. Are you kidding me? Nona is here. All our aunts and cousins, I can't lie to them all. Debbie shakes her head furiously, her hair swishing from side to side. Please, Kat. Deb, it's your wedding. If anyone thinks Ryder and I, they'll be all over you, exactly. My eyes narrow as I study Debbie's panic-stricken face. She's hiding something. Whatever she's up to, it's not about diverting attention away from her. Okay, what is this really about? We stare at each other for a few minutes, then Debbie's shoulders slump in defeat. We're leaving. Huh? Mark has contacts through the paper. I landed an interview with a small press about having my own column on philosophy. And I got it. I sit up and beam at my sister, my chest bubbling up with pride. Deb, that's amazing news. Debbie left college with a degree in philosophy. Her brilliant brain has, so far, been wasted at Bed Bath & Beyond. My only confusion is what this has to do with my dare, and why she's staring at me with big, round eyes. Have you told Dad? He'll be so proud of you. Debbie shakes her head. Kat, the job's in Tokyo. Tokyo? The one in Japan? I splutter. Debbie snorts and her face settles in a warm smile for the first time. Do you know of another one? I whistle as I process the news. This is big. Please, Kat, I can't face the whole family and their questions. You know how they get. They'll want to know about where we're going to settle down, if we're going to have kids. How long are you going to be in Tokyo? I ask, my throat constricting. The two of us have never been apart for longer than a week. The thought of my twin sister being on the other side of the planet brings tears to my eyes. It's a 12-month contract. After that, who knows? Right, I say, trying to make sense of my thoughts. There's a jumble of emotions swirling around in my chest, and some of them aren't even mine. Debbie grabs my hands. Please do this for me. If the family thinks you and Ryder have gotten engaged, I can steer the conversations off me and Mark. So you haven't told Dad? Debbie nips her bottom lip. I promise I'll tell Mom and Dad as soon as the wedding is over. She squeezes my hands. Please, Kat, I need you to do this. I suck in a deep breath and hold it for a moment. So I can't just pretend I'm engaged to Ryder. My twin sister wants me to make a big show of it. To be fair, when her news gets out, she'll never hear the end of it from the family. Everyone already assumes we'll both move back to Verona to settle down, and I can totally see why she doesn't want the third degree from the whole family on her wedding day. Fine, I say through an exhale. Debbie throws her arms around me and pulls me in for a hug. I owe you a million favors, she says as we break apart. Suddenly, we both jump at a rat-a-tat-tat on the window. I open the door with an excessive amount of caution but breathe out in relief when I see Ryder looking at me. Just letting you two know that everyone saw you turn up and they're wondering why you're not coming inside, he says. His deep voice rumbles against my eardrums. You're just the person I need to see, I say brightly. Ryder's thick brows shoot up. Really? I glance back at Deb and she gives me a grateful nod. Then I take a deep breath. Yes, honey, we've got to make our big entrance. Chapter 4. Ryder. I've never known Katya to take something as trivial as a dare so seriously. She slides her arm through mine, clutches my bicep, and puts on her best impression of a loving smile. Her act is good enough to almost fool me. Almost. I break eye contact with her briefly at the sound of a yelp, just in time to see Mark swoop Debbie around in a circle before he pulls her in for a kiss. Then he looks up at me. Your room key's at the desk. Go put on something sharp and meet us downstairs in an hour. We've booked the restaurant. You've booked the whole restaurant? Mark howls with laughter. Have you seen how many guests we have here? We're gonna need the space. He plants kisses on Debbie's cheeks, but she turns serious, looking at him hard. Promise me you won't tell anyone about... Don't worry, I won't say a word. He presses his index finger to his lips with a grin. A word about what? I blurt. Mark jabs his thumb in my direction as he settles Debbie to the ground again. See, I haven't even told my best man. Neither of them seems inclined to clue me in, though. They turn away, but Debbie shoots Katya a look over her shoulder. Don't take too long. Then the two of them walk off, talking to each other at 100 miles an hour, while Katya locks up the car. I take her bag, and she clutches my arm again. Do you know what that's all about? I ask her. Her brows knit together as she hums. Well, we're both lumped into this mess, so I guess I can tell you, she says, looking disgruntled. Mark and Debbie are moving to Tokyo. Wow. As in Japan? I ask. Katya's face breaks into a grin at my reaction, but I can't work out what I just said that's so funny. No one in the family knows. Yet. Ah, I say, connecting the dots. We're the diversion. Bingo. We hover on the spot, looking across the parking lot as Mark and Debbie make their grand appearance at the entrance to the hotel. A rise of chatter fills the air, and slowly, the crowd files into the lobby. I turn to look at Katya. There's a strong sea air fanning her dark hair back like she's in a shampoo commercial, and the street lamps illuminate the shine of her lips. Feeling her body so close to mine, with her hand squeezing my arm, sends my brain into a spin. I shake myself out of my head. Like a pair of thieves in the night, Katya and I tiptoe to the front door with our bags. We stop by the front, and I peer around to look through the doors. I hold my breath, watching the last of the family walk toward the elevators, then clear my throat. Come on. I pick up the key from the front desk as Katya ambles over. Then we take the stairs to avoid bumping into anyone. We make it to the room without getting caught. Sneaking around like this with Katya's hand in mine reminds me of prom night. I take a bottle of water and gulp down several mouthfuls in a vain attempt to make my throat less dry. But my efforts are fruitless. Katya is pacing the room and mumbling to herself, paying no mind to the large bed with scattered rose petals on it. How are we going to pull this off? She stops and looks at me brazenly, her hazel eyes boring deep into my soul. I stagger back as if putting more distance between us will give me back my ability to breathe. It would be so easy to stride across the room, lift her in my arms, and reclaim those pretty rosebud lips. Maybe our act won't be so hard to do if I could just tell Katya how I really feel about her. How I never dated anyone through college, never even looked at a girl, because there's only ever been one. Her. The words pile together in my mouth like a ball of cotton, but all I do is pick up another bottle of water from the table. In absence of a response, Katya huffs, shakes her head, and finally releases me from her stare. Then she opens her bag. A phone pings and she pulls it out from her jeans to stare at it. Great, just great, she mutters to herself. I'm still just standing in the corner, wondering what to do with my hands. Something wrong? Katya pulls out a dress and sparkly pair of shoes. Storm update. She's coming in faster now. I launch into action at the news, happy for a distraction. Watching Katya's temper grow hotter was making my body tense up. I set up my laptop on the desk. Huh, I should have known you'd bring that, Katya says with a roll of the eyes. What are you going to do? Write Storm Sally a complaint? Maybe ask her to hold off for another 24 hours. She chuckles to herself, tickled by her own wit, and I force my expression to stay neutral, fighting back a smirk. I'm tracking the storm, I explain. Then I glance up at her. You go ahead and get ready. Debbie needs us. Katya crosses the room in a beeline for the bathroom but halts behind me. The heat of her body sets my back on fire. She plants a warm hand on my shoulder. I hold my breath, staring at the login screen, completely unable to recall my password. I can sense through her fingertips that Katya's hot temper has fizzled away, as nothing but warmth still radiates from her. She's a mystery. How anyone can be furious one minute, then calm within a split second is beyond my comprehension. I hold still, waiting for one of us to break the silence. But then Katya gives me a final squeeze before she lets go, as if she's just changed her mind about something. I steal a glance just as she reaches the bathroom and she looks back. Our eyes lock. See you in a minute, she says softly. I raise my hand and she closes the door. Then I turn back to the laptop, but my stomach is still a jumbled mess of nerves. Even after all this time, she holds a power over me that I cannot understand. Pretending to be her fiancé is going to be nothing short of torture. But I made a promise, and I may be many things, but I am always a man of my word. Chapter 5, Katya. Getting Ryder to talk to me is like trying to draw blood from a stone. I re-enter the room dressed up and ready for dinner. All I get from him is an intense stare. Then he looks down and straightens his tie. I smirk. Our relationship didn't involve much talking. Not from him, anyway. He's always been a deep thinker. The tall, sexy, brooding male that was my whole world. Let me help you, I say, closing the space between us. I straighten the red tie and pat it. Look, we're matching. I point to my rogue red dress. Ryder's eyes don't meet mine. They settle somewhere near my cleavage instead. Then he brushes his fingertips over my collarbone and I suck in a sharp breath. I got you this, he says in a whisper. I glance at our reflection in the mirror next to us to look at the silver heart necklace around my neck. I thought it would be a nice touch. It'll be easier to lie if we use the truth. My words strike a chord. Ryder's eyes flash and he jolts back. I almost forgot, he says. He buries a hand inside his jacket and retrieves a little black velvet box. This is for you. Before I can reach for the box, though, he goes down on one knee and opens it up. At the same moment, a gust of air slams against the window and I jump. My heart picks up speed when I see the sparkling ring staring back at me. Conflicting emotions bubble up inside my chest and I bite my lip so hard it hurts. But nothing hurts more than the image of Ryder on bended knee, offering me an engagement ring, like some cruel joke. He's right here, yet totally off limits. You came prepared, I say in a measured tone, trying to sound aloof. The 17-year-old me would have screeched, yes, and smothered his face in kisses. A twinge of disappointment nips at my stomach as I take the ring and put it on. Perfect fit. Ryder grins, and it's the first sign of emotion he's given me since we entered the room. You do know this is all fake, right? I say, just making sure. Ryder's face falls, but he covers it with a cough as he clambers to his feet. Of course I do. Another blast of wind rattles the windows, and I frown at them. Don't worry, Ryder says lightly, pulling me out of my thoughts. I had a strong word with Storm Sally, and she's promised me she won't stir up any drama for the wedding. His words prompt me to laugh. Is that a joke? Did the serious, brooding Ryder come back from college with a degree in comedy? My phone pings. I glance down, and my stomach knots at Debbie's message. Dad is asking questions. Come down now. There she is, Debbie exclaims, jumping up from the table to join me with arms open wide. Ryder and I walk into the restaurant. It's full of my relatives, and if I didn't have Ryder's arm to hold on to, I'm sure I'd have fallen into a heap on the floor by now. My legs are like spaghetti, but the delighted look on Debbie's face gives me courage. She turns back to everyone and raises a glass. Everyone, I have a special announcement to make. The chatter falls quiet, and I scan the room for my friends. Mark's whole family is at a single table, and they look just as overwhelmed by all the chatting Italians in the room. Cameron, Holly, Jonah, and Michelle look at me with identical Cheshire cat grins. My sight lands on my parents just as they look up at me, and my heart softens. They moved back to Italy to retire last year. It feels like a decade has passed since I last saw them. I resist the urge to run across the room and throw my arms around them both, pulling them into a giant hug. Mark and I are thrilled to see so many of you have made the effort to be here for our wedding. I can announce, with permission and great delight,
that I am not the only one getting married. Debbie glances at me with an evil glint in her eye, and for a moment, I wonder if she's about to announce that Ryder and I are also getting married this weekend. What an evil plot twist that would be, and yet totally something Debbie would do to me. I hold my breath and force a smile, waiting for the gauntlet to fall. But Debbie, as if knowing where my thoughts are taking me, turns back to everyone and says, "My sister just got engaged to her high school sweetheart, Ryder Black." The room explodes into shocked gasps. Some people even manage to clap. Jonah and Michelle hoot from the corner, and I squeeze Ryder's arm as if my life depends on it. My dad, however, jumps to his feet with such force that he knocks into the table. His glass falls over and bubbling champagne soaks into the white table linen. He stares at Ryder with such intensity, I fear laser beams will shoot out of his eyes and nothing will be left of my fake fiancé but a pile of ashes. There's a heavy silence as Ryder stares back at my father like a deer in headlights. I see a pool of sweat collect above his upper lip. Nobody seems to have noticed the spilled drink that is now dripping onto the carpeted floor. All eyes are swiveling from Ryder to my dad and back again, as if watching an intense tennis match. The last thing Debbie needs the night before her wedding is for my dad to beat my fiancé into a pulp. So I do what every dutiful daughter does in these situations. I square my shoulders, raise my head, and say the first thing that springs to mind. I do. Granted, my reaction is a little over the top. My ring hand is up in the air and I'm waving it like a white flag. But the effect is exactly what I was aiming for. My dad breaks his steely glare and turns to me instead. His eyes flit to my ring. The diamond is glinting so hard in the light, it's probably blinding everyone in the room. My dad's dark mustache twitches, and I give him a reassuring nod to seal the deal. Now satisfied that I haven't been bribed or coerced into this situation, which of course is totally what has happened, he breaks into a huge, beaming smile, marches around the table, and takes long strides across the room to pull Ryder in for a gigantic hug. "You came to your senses. Wonderful, wonderful," he says. Then he turns to the rest of the room with his chest puffed out. "Both of my baby girls are getting married." The announcement provokes rousing applause, and even though this is all an elaborate lie, I beam too. Come, come, eat." My dad kisses us on both cheeks and hurries us to our seats, next to my mom. She dabs her eyes with a corner of a napkin and we exchange kisses. The chatter in the room picks up again as everyone takes up their knives and forks and continues with their meal. Meanwhile, Ryder and I sit next to my parents, slightly stunned. I thought I could get my dad to cool off, but I never expected him to react like that. Like he's over the moon his daughter got back together with her ex. What about the endless rants I had to endure on every phone call? I never wanted to bring Ryder up in conversation, but my dad never failed to. He hated him, or so I thought. Now he can't stop grinning. His eyes are twinkling like two diamond rings. He grabs my mother's hand and presses it to his lips. "Isn't this marvelous, dear?" he says, looking adoringly at my mom. She shoots me an inquisitive look, and for a second, I wonder if she doesn't buy the act. So I lean my head on Ryder's shoulder and rest my hand on his. He flinches, prompting me to tilt my head upward and look at him. As if picking up on my thoughts, Ryder bows his head and he kisses me gently on the forehead. I close my eyes, basking in the warmth of his kiss, my entire body tingling. Then I sneak a peek at my mom. She's resting her hand on her collarbone and her face has broken into a delighted smile.
Yes, my dear, it's marvelous. As we enjoy the food, various family members come up to our table to congratulate us. With a giggle, I wipe rosy lipstick marks off Ryder's cheeks after my Aunt Helen's enthusiastic greeting. I've not been kissed by so many people in one night, Ryder says, his face flushing. I smirk at him. Since college? I finish for him, raising a brow. My words erase his smile, and he just stares at me with his brows knitted together. Oh, what I'd give to be inside Ryder Black's head. Unless he's replaying the fraternity parties where he was probably making out with endless girls. I clamp my jaw at the thought. No. On second thought, I don't want to know. He can keep those memories to himself. But then Ryder shakes his head, and as if following my train of thought, he says, "There were no parties." I inhale sharply and stretch my eyes wide to check he isn't just saying that to spare my feelings. But he nods and looks at me like he's given me a confession. I guess you could say after we split up, I was never in the partying mood. He turns away to greet some of my young cousins and proceeds to wow them with a magic trick. The kids watch him in awe as he pulls out a coin from behind his ear. I relate to those kids. Ryder is kind of amazing, and now I can't stop thinking about what a great dad he'd be. Oh boy, I'm in trouble. Chapter 6. Ryder. I still love Katya. The thought leaves me stunned, and I'm still reeling from her dad's reaction to our fake news. All these years, I had myself convinced I didn't even know what true love was. We were kids after all. But now she's back in my life and back in my arms. I can't stop the emotions from building. I love her. It's so easy to say in my head, so why is it so hard to talk to her about it? When I saw her again, first at Michelle's house, then Holly's, I couldn't stop looking at her. But the pain of seeing this Italian beauty who I hurt was too much. So I take my laptop and bury myself in work. Being a developer means there's always something to do. In some ways, the work never ends. And I like it that way. Because so long as I keep my mind busy, it doesn't wander off, unlocking forbidden memories and flooding me with all of these conflicted feelings. Now she's surrounded by so many family members, kids, aunts, uncles, parents, grandparents, and it's a reminder of the stark contrast to my own upbringing. After my parents' divorce, my dad found a woman half his age and set up a new life on the south coast of England. He doesn't even send birthday cards. My mother bought a camper van and is always on the move. Who knows when I'll see her again? I glance at Katya's dad. He could probably kill a person with one look, but at the same time, he exudes warmth and love to his family. He waltzes around the room, greeting people and striking up friendly conversation. Looking around at the smiling faces of all of Katya's loved ones makes me feel like they've all pulled me in for a big hug. So, Ryder, tell us, how did you two end up getting back together? The innocent question sets off like an explosion in my ears. What? Katya has it under control, though. She pats my arm and gives the fake story we came up with in the coffee shop. Well, our mutual friends played matchmaker, she begins. I nod politely, trying not to stare at Katya's Nona, as she picks up a brown medicine bottle and stuffs a straw in it. She catches my look, though, and her eyes glint at me, reminding me of Katya when she's caught doing something devilish. Indigestion medicine, she says, leaning to me. The doctor says I shouldn't eat the meat, but... She chuckles to herself at an inside joke, then motions to Katya with her fingertips. Sorry, please continue. Michelle knew I never got over Ryder. Katya glances back at me. Never. I gulp. If this is only an act, I'm falling for it. Hard. Mark got sick of me pining after Katya, I add. You see, we split up the summer before college. At the time, I thought I was doing the right thing. Long-distance relationships, statistically speaking, they never work out. I scratch the back of my neck, losing myself, and before I know it, all of my jumbled thoughts come tumbling out in word vomit. But being without her made life lose its color. Every new discovery was tainted by the thought of wishing that I could share it with her. I soon realized that living without Katya is not living at all. I was only surviving, we say in unison. We look at each other and just sit there, gazing into each other's eyes. Then a collective sigh pulls me out of the moment and I blink at the group of ladies that have now gathered around our table. Debbie gives me a thumbs up. Perfect, she mouths. Lend me see the ring, darling. Oh, yes, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Look, Daphne. Nona reaches out to the old lady next to her who hums her approval. Very nice. I picked it up in a small jewelry store in Sicily. I blurt, looking down at the golden ring on Katya's delicate finger. Sicily? Katya says, incredulous. But that must have been last year when you were traveling. She pauses and her thick lashes flutter at me. Her response has my stomach in knots. I take a large gulp of my drink, hoping it might give me the courage to finally tell the truth. Then I look at Katya again, resolved. I saw it through the window. The sun's rays settled on that very band and your face sprang to mind, I admit. The chatter that erupts from the ladies does nothing to calm my nerves. Katya drops her knife and fork and just stares at me in shock. I go on and explain that I had been carrying that ring around with me in my pocket ever since. Excuse me, Katya says in a breathy voice, and rises from her seat. She avoids my eyes as she marches away, her dress swishing. You two make a beautiful couple. So, have you settled on a date yet? Nona smiles at me expectantly. I look at the door Katya just walked out of and swallow. Sorry, I say abruptly, then I stumble to my feet. I just need to. I can't collect the words to finish the sentence, but Nona nods along anyway. Sure, go. We'll talk later. Debbie reaches me before I get to the door. Whatever you did, fix it, she hisses at me. I give her a nod and do my best impression of a casual smirk. But I'm not Mark. I can't do a real casual smirk, let alone a fake one. So I imagine I look like I'm being sarcastic instead. Debbie's eyes narrow at me before she swivels on the spot and returns to the party. What the heck was that? Katya says, pacing the lobby and shooting daggers at me. My heart rate picks up at the sight of her so flustered. But I can't read her. Is she angry? Upset? Shocked? All of the above? I stand still, wondering how to make this better. Tell me, she says, coming to a halt. Did you make all that up on the spot, or is any of it true? I bite my lip, trying to gather my thoughts, but under the heat of her stare, my mind comes undone. Technically it's true, I say, averting my gaze. Katya remains frozen on the spot and silent. But even though her lips aren't moving, I can sense the tirade of words being thrown at me. A flood of colors rises to her temples, and she looks at me like I'm the biggest traitor on the planet. She opens her mouth and I brace for impact. But instead, she changes her mind and stomps outside. Ma'am, I wouldn't go out there. The storm is picking up real bad. The man on the front desk shouts after her. I give him a fake smile and point in her direction. I'll go get her. Once outside, a huge gust of wind blasts me, nearly knocking me off my feet. I brace against it and strain my eyes to trace where Katya went. A street lamp illuminates the silhouette of a woman in a dress walking toward the beach. I pick up a run and jog to catch up. Katya, we can't be out here. The storm. I don't care, she shouts back. I swallow hard, and just as we reach the sand, I take her arm. She jumps at the touch. Get away from me. Please, can we talk inside? I shout over the raging winds. Lashings of rain plummet to the ground and hit me like tiny needles. Katya wrenches her arm away from me and glares at me. The anger palpating from her is so intense, it's as if her mood is summoning the storm. You cut me off, she shouts, her words echoing in the wind. A car alarm wails in the distance, and the two of us blink at each other, sopping wet. Do you even remember what you said to me that day? I clench my jaw. How can I forget the day I broke up with her? I knew that we needed to focus on our studies. 4 years of college on opposite ends of the country. No relationship can last that. I wanted her to be free to live her life, experience the world, maybe even fall in love. But I couldn't just stand by and watch. You said, it would be prudent to break up now before anyone gets hurt down the line. But don't you see? I got hurt, Ryder. You hurt me. And then you stopped taking my calls. Heck, you've been back 6 months and we've been to all these parties, and you never even thought to talk to me? The icy sea wind whips against my face, but it doesn't sting half as much as hearing my own words being used against me. Please, Katya, come back to the hotel. We can talk about this. Oh, Katya throws her hands in the air. Now you want to talk. A rogue umbrella flies past, narrowly missing Katya's beautiful face. The conditions out here are not suitable for this conversation, but Katya is stubborn. She looks at me with fury. When another object flies past us, I make up my mind. What are you? Put me down! Katya screeches as I lift her up and carry her like a new wife. I'm getting you somewhere safe so that we can talk about this and live to tell the tale. Katya crosses her arms but grips my shoulders when a bike crashes into a tree. My stomach tenses at the crunching sound magnified by the wind. We re-enter the hotel lobby to find Mark and Jonah standing by the doors. Look at you two, a couple of drowned rats, Mark says with a chuckle. Jonah frowns at him. You should stay inside. We've just been talking to the staff and they expect the storm to really mess up our plans. I set Katya down, the two of us panting and dripping on the tile floor. What does that mean? Is the wedding off? No way, Mark says with a laugh. You think a little rain will stop us? Nah. The storm has stopped another wedding party from arriving, so there's a conference room all set up for a wedding, and it's got our name on it. Great. I'm gonna go take a shower, Katya says, trembling. Mark elbows me and gives me a wink. Nice one. I knew you two would hook up. It's definitely not what it looks like, I say with a hard look at him. Katya enters the elevator and I watch the doors close. I don't think she's going to speak to me ever again. Where the heck have you been? I look back to find Debbie and Holly walking over. The sight of the family milling out of the doors makes my heart race. I can't let Katya's dad see me like this. I have to go. And without another word, I hot-tail it out of there. The problem is, now I'm not sure what I'm more afraid of. Katya's dad finding out I've upset his baby girl, again, or walking into our room to find Katya fresh out of the shower. Chapter 7. Katya. My boiling Italian blood pumps through my veins as I stand in the steaming shower, trying in vain to calm myself down. I bite my lip furiously, replaying the night's events. Ryder bought an engagement ring for me after years of giving me the silent treatment. Is he crazy? And how could he have carried this thing around all these months without a word to anyone? Deciding that the shower is doing nothing to cool my nerves, I turn off the water and stumble out. Have I secretly wished all this time that Ryder would turn around one day and profess his love? Well, sure. Did I hope that we'd get to flirt with each other over this weekend? Maybe. But I never dreamed he would hand me a ring that he actually purchased for me, long before this wedding, let alone the dare, was on the cards. I grumble to myself as I towel off. Ryder Black is a mystery, and my feelings are a mystery too. Part of me wants to slap him for keeping me in the dark for so long. The other part, a teeny, tiny part, wants to call him an idiot and throw myself onto his lips. And maybe never let go. Maybe. I scrunch up my face and force the thought out of my head. There's a storm raging outside, Debbie's getting married in the morning, and the last thing I should be thinking about right now is Ryder. Besides, he's just doing what I asked him to do, pretend to be in love with me. Problem is, the act is a little too convincing for me to handle. And knowing that he was still thinking about me this whole time sends my stomach into knots. I get ready in record time, painfully aware of the maid of honor duties that need to be tended to. And just as I walk out of the bathroom, the door opens and Ryder stumbles into the bedroom wearing nothing but a white fluffy towel around his waist. I glance at his damp clothes draped carefully over his arm and gulp. "Where have you been?" I blurt, my voice sounding far more accusatory than it should. Who am I to ask him where he's been? It's none of my business. But seeing him half naked, his muscles, his glistening muscles staring at me, has caught me off guard. His body has matured over the years. Any remnants of his teen years were erased, and instead, I'm looking at a man. A red-blooded male who carried me away from the storm in his burly arms. "I just came to get my bag. Your sister will be here soon." Oh, that's right. The bride and groom have to sleep apart the night before their wedding. I take a sidestep, letting him in. As he walks past, the scent of menthol washes over me, and like a moth to a flame, a very hot, dangerous flame, I grab his arm. Ryder turns and his eyes flash as he glances at my hand gripping his bicep. My brain catches up and I let him go. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at apologies. They make me feel ridiculously lame and small. But in this case, I've behaved childishly. What was I thinking walking out into the storm? Sometimes my emotions blind my senses and all I see is red. I blink back the prickling sensation in my eyes and look up at Ryder, who just smiles at me warmly. "Katya," he says in a breathy voice. He grazes his thumb along my jawline and nips his bottom lip. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." His head gravitates to me and he hovers so close to my lips, his breath tickles my cheeks. I wonder if he's realized that the only thing standing between his naked body and me is this towel. The thought sends my brain into a spin and my icy disposition melts into a puddle on the floor. Even though I'm still mad at him for the years of hurt, I want to kiss him. I need to kiss him. Perhaps if we throw caution to the wind just this once, I'll finally get the closure I need. Maybe kissing him will feel wrong, and it'll be like kissing my brother if I had one. Then Ryder and I can stop playing this awkward game and just focus on being friends. I let my hand rest on his chest and his defined pectorals tense in response. "What did you want to say?" I whisper, reaching up and resting my hand on his shoulder. My breath comes out quick and shallow as my heart picks up speed. The tension between us is like a current of electricity encircling our bodies, creating little sparks whenever his breath touches my skin. I don't care what he has to say. He could tell me the sky is falling and I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I don't even need him to say the L word. In fact, it may be better to avoid words altogether. They might just complicate things. Besides, right now we're alone in a hotel room. His dark eyes are searching mine. What can he see? Fear? Excitement? A bit of both? I have no idea how readable my eyes are, but if anyone can interpret them, it's him. The lure of his lips is too much to resist. I lean forward a little, just enough to lightly brush my lips over them. Ryder Black was my first kiss. We were under the bleachers during a baseball game and neither of us knew what we were doing. I flipped my tongue around in circles like a washer and our teeth bumped. But after a few awkward laughs and a lot more practice, we became pros at it. I wonder if we can still kiss like we did back in school. Can we be in sync again? Ryder presses his lips against mine with more force and wraps his arms around my body, lifting me into the air. Can a body sigh? Every muscle relaxes and I melt into his embrace with a flood of joy. I'm running around in my head shouting, "I'm home, I'm home." A rush of familiarity washes over my whole soul, making my heart squeeze so hard, I'm sure it might stop beating altogether. But that's fine with me. I'll die happy. A primal, purely biological side of my body takes over, and my newfound joy turns into insatiable hunger. I want his lips connected to mine, his hands around my waist, and our noses nuzzling forever and ever. He plants soft kisses all over my cheeks as if to heal invisible wounds. And against all reason, it works. Every tear I ever shed for him is gone. Every sleepless night of hating his guts erased. All of it. Man, kisses are powerful. Or maybe it's just this kiss. I find his mouth again and drag my hands through his hair, moaning with abandon. He moans back, and it's the most beautiful sound in the world. The two of us are so lost in the moment, neither of us pays any attention to the click and squeal of hinges. But we break apart at the sound of a gasp. "Oh, sorry." Ryder lowers me to the floor, and I jump back to lock eyes with my sister. The three of us stand in shocked silence for a moment, then Ryder grabs his bag and bolts for the bathroom door. Now alone, Debbie mimes a victory dance, pointing at the bathroom door and silently screaming. "Shh," I say, even though she's not making a sound. I glare at her, trying to act annoyed, but no matter how hard I try, I can't hide my grin. Then Holly and Michelle stumble into the room, each holding a bottle. "Katya and Ryder hooked up," Debbie says to the girls. "What?" Mark's voice floats in from the hall. I groan as he and Cameron walk in, closely followed by Jonah. The blood in my face is burning with so much intensity, I swear I must look like a flaming torch by now. The bathroom door reopens, and a fully dressed Ryder casts a look at all of us with wide eyes. His cheeks turn rosy. The sight makes my stomach squirm as I think about how much I want to pinch them and kiss him again. "What are you all doing here?" I say, placing my hands on my hips and trying to sound angry. Everyone files further into the room and finds a spot on the bed. Ryder and I stand dumbfounded by the bathroom, watching our friends make themselves comfortable. Clearly, none of our friends have mastered the ability to read the room. Because if they did, they'd all take one look at me and Ryder and back the heck out. We thought all that noise was the storm, but turns out it was just you two, Holly says, grinning wickedly at me. My eyes bulge as I inhale my own saliva and cough. No, this can't be happening right now. Not only are my friends refusing to give us privacy, but they also want to discuss our intimate life. These things are not up for discussion. I follow my mom's mantra. Private activities between couples should be just that, private. Besides, nothing happened. We kissed. We didn't. Come on, you don't expect us to believe that. Ryder was naked when I walked in, Debbie says with a chuckle. No, he wasn't, I argue back. I shoot Ryder a look, wondering why he's not backing me up, but he seems to have lost his voice. Again. I roll my eyes. The chemistry between us might be off the charts, but our communication skills need some work. I had a towel on, Ryder says finally. He says it far too seriously, and it does nothing to convince anyone that nothing happened. So, you two didn't hook up? Michelle asked, not even trying to hide the disappointment from her voice. We would never, I stutter, blushing furiously now. Never? Ryder asked, turning to look at me with a hurt expression. I open and close my mouth several times like a fish out of water as everyone turns to me. Somebody needs to pass me a shovel. I'm going to bury myself in the ground and dig a tunnel to China. Meanwhile, Cameron rises to his feet and begins to clap. Come on, everyone. Debbie and Mark are getting married in 6 hours. Time to have a toast. Jonah passes out glasses and Holly goes about filling them up. But just as Michelle hands me a glass, the lights go out. Who did that? Ouch, that's my foot. Can somebody please turn the light on? The power's out, you donut. Everyone calm down. The backup generators will kick in any minute. Sure enough, the lights come on again. I take a breath, listening to the violent rattle of the windows. We'll never be able to get to the venue if it's like this tomorrow, I think aloud. Right, where was I? Yes, a toast, Jonah says, raising his glass again. To Mark and Debbie and the wedding that must go on. Everyone clinks glasses, and I force a smile at my sister, wondering how there's going to be a wedding tomorrow. Then all of my thoughts evaporate as Ryder nudges my arm and leans in to whisper in my ear. Meet me downstairs in 10 minutes. Chapter 8. Ryder. Kissing Katya has made me a new man. I feel renewed energy coursing through my veins, and as I stride out of the room and into the hall, I have the perfect posture. It's as if I've battled a lion. I finally crossed over the boundaries between us, and now she's back in my world. It makes me want to do the impossible, like fly over the Grand Canyon. No, bigger than that. Fit the moon in my pocket. Or transforming a conference room set up for a Hindu wedding into something appropriate for Mark and Debbie. I walk in and whistle, looking at the elaborate floral decorations with organza material in bold colors stretched across the ceiling. The door opens with a bang and I jolt. Katya walks in and scans the room, her eyes wide. So this is where the magic is gonna happen, huh? When she walks up to stand beside me, the heat of her body makes me tense. I become very aware of her hand hanging close to mine. I chew my lip, resisting the urge to grab it. Now that I'm back in her presence, all of my courage has blown out of me, leaving me feeling like a deflated balloon. Well, I can't say it's Debbie's style, but it's better than nothing. I just checked with the front desk and they've said no one is going anywhere for the next 24 hours. Katya continues, unaware of my tangled nerves. I nod as a collection of thoughts flood my brain. I'm wrestling with the idea of talking to her about our kiss. But now it feels selfish. This isn't about me and Katya. I'm the best man. I should focus on getting everything ready for the big day. Still, Katya is standing so close. Her lip gloss is shining and her beautiful eyes are luring me in. What I'd give to steal another kiss. But I worry if we start, I'll never want to stop. You're quiet, Katya says, shattering my thoughts. She frowns at me, crossing her arms. You're not freaked out, are you, about earlier? I shake my head, swallowing the buildup of saliva in my mouth. I'm suddenly at a loss on what to do with my tongue as two sides of my brain play a game of tug-of-war. Kiss her? Don't kiss her. Don't do this, Katya says, shaking her head slowly. Don't give me the silent treatment. Doesn't she get it? I'm not giving her the silent treatment. I never have. On the inside, I'm shouting off the rooftops. I'm swinging from tree to tree. I'm swooping her up in my arms and smothering her with kisses. It's just getting it all out of me that seems to be the challenge. The hurt in her eyes propels me forward, as if she's pushed me over the edge of a cliff. Before I can process them, words come tumbling out. I never want to let you go, I say with gusto, but it all comes out in gobbledygook. Katya just stares at me with one brow arched, so I take a deep breath and try again. I don't want to pretend you're mine. Oh? Katya whispers, taking a step closer. I automatically find her hips and grab them as if I'm drawing energy from her body. I lean down, inhaling the scent of her coconut shampoo with a smile as I bury my face into her dark hair. I pause the thought and lean back to look into her eyes. I see myself in them. She smiles and I cradle her face in my hands, grazing my thumbs across her bottom lip. Your family. Katya's shoulders slump a little, and it's hard to miss the slight disappointment on her face. Oh. Then the door opens with another bang and Debbie marches in. Katya and I lurch apart at her arrival and put on fake smiles. You won't believe this, Debbie says, walking up to us. I just found Nona in the casino. It's almost 2 in the morning, and apparently she's been working the slot machine since 11. I smirk at the mental image of Katya and Debbie's Nona, a sweet old Italian lady, sitting at the slot machine in a casino. So this is where I'm getting married, Debbie adds, and the mental image of Nona dissolves. Listen, while we're alone, I just wanted to say thanks. For what? Katya asks, and she takes the words out of my mouth. This wedding has been a disaster so far. For going along with this dare, I know it was a big ask, but hopefully now you've both opened up to each other, it's going to be easier. We haven't, Katya blurts. I mean, there's not been a lot of talking. I clamp my teeth together and hold my breath as the words land on Debbie, prompting a wry smile. Right, she says, slowly giving her sister a nudge. Well, anyway, your little act at dinner has the whole family talking. So far, no one's giving me any interrogation about where we're going to settle down. Happy to be of service, I say, finding my voice. Katya shoots me a look before turning back to her sister. You need to go to bed. We don't want a tired bridezilla in the morning. But this room, I should help take a few things down. I clear my throat and square my shoulders, suddenly focused on the task at hand just as Mark and Jonah walk in. You girls get to bed. Let us deal with this, I say. Are you sure? Debbie asks. She and Katya give me identical looks of suspicion. I meet Mark's stare and he nods at me, resolved. Get some sleep. Katya is right. We need our bride to get her beauty sleep. Debbie hums as if not convinced, and Mark kisses her as if to seal the deal. Then she makes for the door. Okay, I guess I'll see you in the morning then. I'll be right here waiting for you, Mark calls out to her. I'll be the one in white, she shouts back. Katya follows her out the door but turns and gives me a longing look. I give a faint wave. Then the door closes between us. I spoke to the front desk. They said we can use whatever we need in their supply cupboard, Mark says enthusiastically. All right, men, I say, lowering my voice and getting serious. Cameron walks in. It's gonna be a long night. We've got work to do.
Chapter 9. Katya. Debbie and I return to my room to find Michelle and Holly still sitting on the bed. Michelle looks up as we approach and raises an empty bottle. "We've only got enough for one more glass," she says. It's as if we're on a deserted island and she's holding up the last of our water supply. I look at my sister. She's staring straight ahead. Her face is pale and her lip is quivering. I place a hand on her slender shoulder and give it a reassuring squeeze. "It's okay. I can get more from downstairs." "It's not that," she says in a strangled voice. Then she looks between us all with wide eyes. "It just hit me. I'm getting married, that I'm moving across the globe." The gasps coming from the girls on the bed tell me this is the first they're hearing of the big move. We settle down in a circle and Michelle passes the champagne to Debbie, who takes a swig straight from the bottle. "Where are you going?" Holly asks in a reverent tone. "Tokyo. I took a job." Holly's hands fly to her open mouth in horror. "Tokyo? That's like China," she says. "It's in Japan, actually," Michelle corrects her. Holly cocks her head to the side. "Right," she says, as if that's any better. "This is the last time we're all going to be together, for a long time," Debbie whispers, her eyes turning misty. The stark realization hits us in a wave of sadness. "Is that why you wanted Katya and Ryder to do their dare?" Michelle asks, rubbing her arm and looking down in thought. Debbie shrugs. "Yes. No, I don't know." She sighs and pulls her legs up to hug her knees. "I guess I needed the distraction too. Besides, I wanted to see them make up before I go." She looks at me for the first time, tears welling in her eyes, and takes my hands. "I can't believe I'm leaving." "Ah." Michelle looks up and starts nodding slowly. Everyone looks at her with surprise. "You didn't want to tell anyone about Tokyo, because then you'd have to face the reality and say goodbye." Tears leak out of Debbie's eyes, and I pull her in for a hug. This isn't right. The bride shouldn't be crying the night before her wedding. Holly and Michelle nod at me as if my thoughts are broadcasting to our own private frequency. "You know what? I'm going to go get our dresses," Holly announces and jumps up. She turns to Michelle. "Coming with? I could use the extra hand." Michelle hops off the bed and the two of them leave the room without another word. Once the door closes, Debbie collapses in a little heap in my lap. I stroke her hair and make shushing noises, just like I used to when we were kids. "It'll be all right, you know," I say, trying to reassure myself just as much as her. "Just think, you're embarking on a big new adventure. Besides, it's not like you're going to Mars." Debbie lets out a deep, shaky breath, and I dab the tears from her cheeks with my sleeve. "I know things have moved pretty fast for you, and it's all catching up. But you love Mark, right?" Debbie shifts back to look up at me and nods. "I love him so much it hurts." I hum back, "I know that feeling." "And he loves you," I say with a note of finality. "And if he ever does anything to hurt you, the whole family will be out to get him," I say with a chuckle. Debbie's cheeks flush as she smirks back. "I'm sorry to be a Debbie Downer." "Literally," we say in unison, then share matching grins. Debbie sits up and crosses her legs. "And I'm sorry for pressuring you and Ryder into—" "Don't," I say, my throat restricting. "It's not about us. We both just want—" I'm not sure how to finish the sentence. What do we want? I want my sister to have a big, beautiful wedding with all of our family there. I want to stand beside Ryder holding his hand. No more games. Debbie eyes me carefully. She's doing the twin thing and picking up on my thoughts again. What are you two gonna do? I suck in a breath and hold it in for a moment. I know there are feelings here, I say, exhaling slowly, but he just won't talk to me, and that drives me crazy. Debbie bites her lip and looks at me with a guilty expression. Well, I guess I've been no help. I don't think you've had much time alone. She makes a good point. Ryder and I have been so preoccupied with the wedding and then the dare, it's been nearly impossible to sit down and have a serious conversation, especially when Debbie keeps walking in on us. I guess I'm just worried he'll suddenly think we're better off being apart, and without giving me a say in it, he'll cut me off. Debbie wipes her eyes with a big sigh. Maybe Michelle can give you two some couples counseling? I laugh. We'll need it. Look, let's get this wedding out of the way, then the two of you will be able to figure this out. You care about him, right? I chew the inside of my cheek and give a nod. Well then, Debbie says, recovering herself and sitting up a little taller. I'm sure everything will work out. The next morning, Michelle fixes coffee for everyone as the girls and our mom get ready. Debbie slips on her white satin gown. It sits on her curves and fits like a glove. Our mom dabs her eyes with a sigh. My sweet Debbie, you are like an exquisite wine. So beautiful. Our mom is quiet and chooses her words carefully, but when she does talk, it's always to say something lovely or profound. She wraps her arms delicately around Debbie's shoulders and plants a soft kiss on her cheek. I'm very proud of you, she says, pulling back to look at her. Debbie beams, her face radiating happiness. A knock on the door pulls my attention away from them, and I walk toward it. I pass the bathroom and catch a glimpse of Holly and Michelle squabbling over makeup. Then, I open the door to see my dad in a black tux. His mustache is neatly trimmed, and his graying dark hair is gelled to the side. He grins at me, his eyes twinkling, and I throw my arms around him to squeeze him. Hello, tesoro, he says with a soft laugh. He pats me gently, then I break away. You look handsome, Papa, I say warmly. He steps in, and I move over to let him see Debbie standing in her gown. The two of them stare at each other for a few moments before our dad kisses his fingertips and throws his hands in the air. Ah, Debbie, bellissimo. He strides across the room to embrace her. Then he turns to our mom. Mi amor, look at our daughters. God has been good to us. I stand still for a moment, hardly daring to breathe, as the feeling of warmth radiates through the whole room. My parents embrace each other, and my eyes prickle as I watch my dad press his lips to my mother's temple. They are like yin and yang. He is bold and outspoken and deeply passionate, and our mother is quiet and gentle. Yet, even after 32 years of marriage, they have never looked more in love. We make our way downstairs and gather outside the doors to the conference room. My father offers Debbie his arm and glances back at me. Are we all ready? He asks. The question hits me hard, and my heart races as if I'm the one getting married. Jonah and Cameron walk up in matching charcoal suits with white roses pinned to their jackets. I watch as Holly takes Cameron's arm, her pastel pink gown swishing with her movements. Michelle joins Jonah. Then the doors open and the wedding march announces Debbie's arrival. I gulp. Following my sister, I focus on keeping enough distance between us so as not to trip up on her veil. A collective sigh greets us as we enter the room, but I pay no attention. I can't help with the gasp escaping my lips. The room is filled with white and red balloons. Soft white material drapes across the ceiling in waves, and one of the hotel staff is standing at the front of the room with a Bible.
I glance down at the red petals lining the aisle and scan rows of family members filling their seats. The room is completely transformed. Only the rattling windows serve as a reminder that there's even a storm outside. Debbie plants a kiss on our dad's cheek, and he joins our mother in the front row. Then I look up and meet Ryder's bright eyes. He stands tall and strong in a dark suit, and his hands are clasped in front of him. Nothing could have prepared me for the bold grin he gives me. My breath hitches, and I walk over, as if on autopilot, to stand opposite him at the front. "Dearly beloved," the staff member says solemnly. Then he leans over to Mark. "That is what you say, right?" he murmurs. Mark gives him a thumbs up and a light chuckle. "You're doing great." The man clears his throat and continues his speech, but his words fade from my ears and I just stare at Ryder in wonderment. "You did all this?" I mouth to him. Ryder nods with a smile more beautiful than the sun setting over Rome. My heart squeezes. He must have had even less sleep than me. "Do you take this woman to be your lawful wife?" I zone in on the staff member again and look at my sister beaming up at her groom. But before Mark opens his mouth, Ryder speaks. "I do." Mark looks at Ryder with surprise, and a wave of shocked gasps and whispers wash over the congregation. I blink at Ryder several times, trying to process what just happened, and Debbie's laugh breaks the silence. "Excuse me?" she says, looking at Ryder like he's just sprouted two heads. "Sorry," he blurts, his face turning magenta. "I don't, at least not you. I mean, you're great, Debbie, but I mean..." He tugs on his collar, and all I can do is stare, dumbfounded. Amazingly, my sister and new brother-in-law seem to find the funny in this situation. The two of them break into fits of giggles. "Something on your mind, Ryder?" Mark asks, slapping his best friend on the back. Ryder shakes his head and apologizes repeatedly, but Debbie shakes her head. "Come on, you can't leave us hanging like that. I want to know what you're thinking." She winks at me like this situation is all part of a big plan, or something. Ryder clears his throat, and I look back at him shocked. "I mean, I do. At least, I want to take Katya to be my lawfully wedded wife." Ryder clears his throat and looks at me finally. "I never stopped loving you, and we've already lost so much time I can't stand another moment without you in my life." "We know. Don't worry, your turn will come," my dad shouts from the front row. The rest of the guests chuckle. I swallow, and Michelle shakes my arm excitedly. This is probably super exciting to everyone else. Even Debbie and Mark look delighted by the turn of events. I, on the other hand, can't believe Ryder is choosing right now to bare his soul. "Right," Ryder says, his cheeks dimpling. Debbie and Mark look at each other for a few moments, then their faces break into identical devilish grins. "How about a double wedding?" Debbie suggests. The guests applaud with approval as Holly and Michelle both go, "Ooh!" "No, no," I say, frowning. "It's your day. Sorry, go on." I give a quick smile to the presiding staff member who looks like he has no idea what to do. "Come on," Mark bellows so loudly it echoes around the room. "As long as I get to marry this beautiful lady, I don't care if everyone gets married at the same time." I glance at Holly and Michelle, and they're both looking hopefully at their boyfriends. The men are looking back with pale faces, and the sight prompts a small laugh to escape my lips. But then I look at Ryder, and suddenly nothing seems funny at all. "Katya," he says in a deep voice. The people around us fizzle away, and it's just us. "I've missed you every day since the end of high school. In fact, I still have the last picture we took." He pulls out an old photograph from his jacket pocket and holds it up. The two of us are crammed into a photo booth, and a young writer is kissing my forehead. I'm looking down with a smile on my face. I came back to New York with hopes that we might reconnect. Now, I have a good job, and I'm ready to settle down and make that commitment. The whole world around me grows light, and my chest becomes so tight I can hardly breathe. I've only had an hour of sleep. Maybe this is delirium kicking in, and I'm just playing out a fantasy while Mark and Debbie exchange their vows. Right, then it's settled. You two are getting married, right here, right now, Debbie says. Just like that, everyone in the room comes flooding back into view. I inhale sharply, unable to break away from Ryder's intense gaze. I rub my pinky against the cold band on my ring finger to check that it's really there. Then I bite my lip, trying to decide whether to go ahead with this or not. This is perfect, Mark says. I get to see my best friend marrying my new sister-in-law without having to fly back from Tokyo. What? My dad's voice launches me into action as I catch Debbie's look of pure dread. I do, I shout, looking at Ryder again. A rise of delighted chatter fills the air, and Ryder's face breaks into a beaming smile. You will? He asked softly, stepping forward to take my hands. As his skin touches mine, every part of my body relaxes. Everything about this feels right, as if it was always going to end up this way. From the storm stopping us and Ryder having to stay up all night to decorate, to Michelle's dare forcing us to face our true feelings for each other. Well, in that case, gentlemen, do you take these ladies to be your lawfully wedded wives? The staff member says, clutching his Bible as we all turn to look up at him. We do, Ryder and Mark say at the same time. And ladies, do you take these gentlemen to be your lawfully wedded husbands? Debbie and I glance at each other. We do. Well then, by the power vested in me by the state of New Jersey and makemeapastor.com, I pronounce you all husbands and wives. You may kiss your brides. An explosion of cheers erupt as Ryder pulls me in and I rise on tiptoe to meet his lips. Our noses nuzzle and my heart swells so much it makes me feel dizzy. Who knows? Maybe this is all a beautiful, wacky, crazy dream? But as we break apart and take turns to hug Debbie and Mark, I decide that if it is, I'm never going to let myself wake up. This has been Truth or Dare, a sweet romantic comedy collection. Written by Laura Burton, narrated by Amber Battaglia. Copyright 2021 by Laura Burton. Production copyright by Laura Burton.